Chapter 139 The Ivy League. Next, Lin Xiao sat firmly on the Daoyutai, sitting on the silver throne on the top floor after the 9 golden thrones. He sat and watched the other players still challenge each other, and occasionally looked at the rostrum. By this time, most of the players had completed the challenge, more than 2/3 of the players without seats were eliminated, and only 200 or 300 people stood there under the 5th floor seats. The host, Instructor Mo, has also stood on the rostrum, smiling at the few remaining challenges, and occasionally communicates with observers from various universities in the void, smiling from time to time. Suddenly, he tilted his head to one side of his ear and seemed to be listening to something, and then the smile on his face slowly disappeared, his brows wrinkled, and he looked up in an unknown direction. Lin Xiao didn't notice this. At this time, he was communicating with the Ether observer who was ranked 13th from an institution of higher learning. Or you can call it a top university. Strictly speaking, Ether is also an institution of higher learning, but people prefer to call the top 20 institutions of higher learning a top institution to distinguish it from other institutions of higher learning. After the battle with Li Shengyuan, the observer of the Taiyuan University sent a special invitation letter to Lin Xiao, and stated that if he accepted the special recruitment invitation of Ether, he would not receive special invitations from other top universities. In the future, special invitations will not be issued again. This is a tacit understanding between top universities. That is to say, if Ether is rejected, there will be one less choice. Of course, you can still be admitted to the top academies of Ether by your own skills, but there will be no preferential treatment for special recruits, which is a big loss. Lin Xiao fell into contemplation. This was something he didn't expect, which meant that he had not many opportunities to choose from. There are only 7 of the top 20 top universities in Huasha district, after deducting 2 of them that are not suitable, and then excluding those who may have already selected special recruits and have no extra special recruits. He has not many opportunities to choose, maybe 2 or 3, in fact, there are not many opportunities to pick. Lin Xiao is also not sure whether there will be a super university after all the stages of the summer camp will take a fancy to him and give him a special recruitment quota. You must know that the special recruitment is not just a title, it is a real supply of resources, and each special recruitment quota comes with a generous supply of resources, so even top universities do not provide many special recruitment quotas each year. Just like the resources attached to the special recruitment quota provided by Ether. First of all, as long as you accept the special move, you will immediately get 2 additional card slots, a suitable ancient quality card, a divine card, and a golden mythical quality divine domain card. After that, get an extra card slot every quarter, and get a golden mythical quality divine domain card every month. Then, every year, you will get a suitable ancient quality card, a divine card, and a golden mythical quality divine domain card, which will be stacked with the second one. These are all basic resources. Any institution of higher learning with a fixed quota of special admissions will definitely have it. In addition, there are resources unique to each university. Depending on the university ranking resources, the higher the ranking, the richer it is. It is not clear what Lin Xiao is, but it is definitely not bad. As a top institution of higher learning ranked 13th, the resources given by the special admission quota will definitely not be too bad. To be honest, it has already met Lin Xiao's requirements. After all, there are only 5 super universities in Huasha district, 7 top universities, and the top universities in Taiyuan have already entered the top 10 in Huasha district. He has no reason to dislike such a first-class famous school. Therefore, he simply replied, "Thanks to Ether for the recognition, I am honored to be a member of Ether." The observer from the Ether immediately replied, "Ling Yunji, Wind and Lightning, your choice is not wrong, see you on campus next semester." Lin Xiao responded modestly. Lin Xiao also looks forward to this day. So far, as long as there are no major accidents, after the holiday, he is a member of the affiliated No. 1 Middle School of Taiyuan University. Yes, it is affiliated number 1 Middle School. As a specially recruited student, it is natural to go to the affiliated high school, just like Wu Zonglin goes to the first affiliated high school of the Super University War Throne next semester. This is the case for all special enrollment. This is also an incidental resource for the special enrollment quota. The transfer application will end at the summer camp. It was then sent to Dongning No. 5 Middle School. After all, the ability to obtain special admissions from higher education institutions must be far superior to that of the same class, and the training in the original school cannot keep up. Dongning No. 5 Middle School would also be happy to send him there, because it would increase the school's reputation even more. Ordinary high schools are all about cultivating outstanding talents and supplying talents to institutions of higher learning. The reason why it has to wait for the summer camp to be determined is mainly because the 5 super universities have priority. Even if some students have reached an agreement with a certain institution of higher learning, if a super institution likes it, they can go there first. Of course, it must also be a special invitation. If it is just an intention, you must ask the students for their opinions. Generally speaking, only intentional students will not be considered, even if the invitation letter of intention has certain resources, but it cannot be compared with the special recruitment. As the saying goes, it's better to be a chicken's head than a phoenix's tail. Isn't it good to go to other institutions of higher learning to be the most important special enrollment? Anyway, if Lin Xiao was chosen, he would definitely be willing to go to another institution of higher learning as a special enrollment, even if it was a lower-ranked institution of higher learning. Lin Xiao doesn't think that he can get the special recruitment quota of the Super Academy now. If it is a year later, it will be stable. Even if he knows it now, he is definitely not qualified. At this time, the second phase of the summer camp is coming to an end, and the remaining ones have basically completed the challenge. Those who should be eliminated have been eliminated, and most of those who can stay have certain skills. At the beginning, there were less than 10 people from Yunmeng province, including Gucheng Linshu and others, and everyone else was eliminated, including Bai Zishang Xiaoshui, and Tang Ling was also eliminated. There is only one round of elimination in the second stage of the summer camp, and it will not continue to be eliminated. The next third stage is the last stage. Judging from the previous military chairpersons, there is a high probability that it will be in actual combat. It is to let them go to the Crystal Wall war zone controlled by the military and even not yet controlled by the military. There is a certain danger, at least it is more dangerous than the actual combat experience of the academic school, but it is very able to hone them and let them know in advance. Go to the main world how to attack the plane in the chaotic sea, and how to actually attack a plane under the care of the military. Note that this plane refers to the plane of civilization, with civilization, planes with existences above demigods, and planes with no civilization need no strategy. In this final stage, no one has come to challenge Lin Xiao, or none of the 9 gold players and the top 12 top-ranked players of the 36 silver players have been challenged. These 21 people seem to be the strongest group of this summer camp. 3 of their group were selected, namely Lin Xiao, Ji Yu Gucheng, Shen Yuexin, and Lin Shu, although they are also silver players, but they are not the strongest group. Well, if you also add Wu Zonglin, Yunmeng province has 5 people ranked above silver this year, which is quite strong. Minutes and seconds passed until a certain challenge was over, and a deafening bell rang suddenly, and everyone knew that this stage was over. Instructor Mo's voice sounded in everyone's ears. First of all, congratulations on reaching the last level. The rewards will be collected later. Before that, I will announce the rules for the third and final stage of this summer camp. Lin Xiao listened intently, and Instructor Mo said in a deep voice. I believe many people have guessed that this last level is the actual combat. It was originally the same as before, but I received a new news just now, so the third stage of this summer camp has changed. You will be with the Ivy League colleges and universities. The winners of the league's Super Freshman Tournament communicate. Wow! As soon as the voice fell, there was a sudden noise, and everyone was shocked and chatted with each other. Lin Xiao was also stunned for a while before he came back to his senses, full of surprise in his heart. To communicate with the winners of the Ivy League Super Freshman competition, isn't this the competition between Huasha District and the younger generation of the Ivy League University League? This so-called Ivy League University Alliance is not the university alliance that ordinary people first impression, but a major force in the main world with strength comparable to the Huasha District. Speaking of this, we must first talk about the power composition of the main human world. The main world has 4 giant forces: Huasha District, Based on the ancient Chinese civilization, a huge force formed by uniting all friendly ethnic groups in ancient China is temporarily ranked first. Ivy League University Alliance. It is based on the Ivy League University Alliance in the ancient Earth era. When the game of God's domain appeared, the outstanding students cultivated by these top universities could easily stand out and become true gods. Later, the original concept of nationality disappeared. These students from Ivy League universities used their alma mater as a link and joined other first-class universities to form a new Ivy League university. Alliance, and this name is also the name of this force. Giant Enterprise Alliance. A force composed of giant enterprises, super consortia, and top capitalists. Capital has huge human and financial resources. With this capital, some huge giant enterprises, super consortiums, and top capitalists have united to form this huge force. Aristocratic Council. It is composed of big families that respect the ancient aristocratic system. These large families have ancient histories, some of which originate from the superfamily of the ancient Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago. The strength of the four major forces, China Summer District, is the strongest, followed by the Ivy League University Alliance, the Giant Enterprise Alliance is the third, and the Aristocratic Council is the fourth. However, in the main world, the relationship between the Ivy League University Alliance, the Alliance of Giant Enterprises and the Aristocratic Parliament is very close, and there has always been occasional friction with the Chinese civilization that has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years. When facing some powerful crystal wall systems outside the main world, they are unanimous, but internal disputes have always been there, and they have not disappeared since hundreds of thousands of years ago. And this Ivy League Super Freshman Competition is a top freshman activity similar to the Super Freshman Summer Camp in Huasha District, and it is also an activity to select the best talents. Chapter 140 Ancient Card, Frost Warlock Profession Card. This kind of exchange competition has often appeared in history. Generally, there will be an exchange every 10 or 20 years. It is not the Ivy League University Alliance in Huasha District, or the Ivy League University Alliance. Feat. Basically where there is a super genius will come once, mainly to show off. Unfortunately, Lin Xiao encountered this kind of thing this time. Knowing that this year's top talent like Wu Zonglin would dare to come, obviously there are also one or two super geniuses. That's interesting. Lin Xiao didn't worry about anything, just communicated. The sky fell and there was a tall man supporting him. The tall guy on their side is Wu Zonglin and the 5 elites who came with him. It's up to them to defend the honor and so on. Looking back at the first floor of the golden throne above, the expressions of several golden players became solemn. Even if they were all like that, Wu Zonglin in the center had the same expression as usual, as if he heard ordinary news. At this time, Instructor Mo said again, "I believe everyone knows what this means. Let's not lie, all the observers have spoken. As long as you defeat them in this exchange meeting, all the special recruits held by the observers will be used for you. Recruitment places will also receive invitations of interest." Wow, everyone's spirits are lifted, and the summer camp official is going to enlarge the trick. There are 70 or 80 institutions of higher learning coming to this summer camp, and each of them holds 1 or 2 special admission places, adding up to at least hundreds of special admission places. Before, they still had to pick and choose. If they were not satisfied, they would rather not post. So now there are actually less than 30 players who have obtained special recruitment quotas. Most of the players, including some silver players with average performance, may not have special recruitment quotas. Well now, there are more places, and everyone has more opportunities. Coupled with the intentional quota, as long as they can outperform each other, everyone has a chance. The exchange meeting is scheduled for 2 days. Before that, everyone should be ready. If you have extra card slots, try to use them to increase your strength. If you have rewards, you will receive them as soon as possible. After 2 days, you will be sent to the War Fortress of the Outer Territory Military and sent by the Ivy League University Alliance. Exchange students meet. Disband now. After speaking, the host disappeared out of thin air, and the 9 figures on the rostrum also disappeared. Without the instructor, the venue gradually became noisy, and many students were discussing with the surrounding students. Lin Xiao didn't have time to deal with this. He called out the panel and was receiving the rewards at this stage. 2 extra card slots, 1 ancient god card, and 6 mythical quality cards. Don't take the card slot first, you can wait until you go back to the dormitory. With a light touch of his finger, the interface in front of him unfolded, and cards exuding a strong crystal light appeared in front of him. There are not many types of ancient cards, and most of them are of the same type. After all, they are the highest quality cards. Even the official summer camp does not have many types, unlike the thousands of other cards. He quickly browsed through the dozen or so ancient cards, and while drooling, he resisted all the urges he wanted, and locked a card that was temporarily most suitable for him. 5-star occupation card. Frost Warlock Ancient. Integrate into God's domain and load Frost Warlock occupation for the family that meets the requirements. Hint: familiar must have more than 5 base mental strength to load this class. Evaluation: an extremely rare legal profession. There are 99 plus ancient cards in total. It is estimated that there are only so many Warlock professional cards unique to the military. In addition, there are regular Warlock professional cards such as Pyromancer card, Venom Warlock card, and Shadow Warlock card. Although it is a regular sorcerer profession, it is a legal profession. No matter which plane you are in, the sorcerer has always been on the top, and is inherently stronger and rarer than the kitchen knife profession. Lin Xiao received the card and immediately checked the specific attributes of this Frost Warlock professional card. Occupation: Frost Warlock. Grade: 6th grade. Occupation bonus: Spirit +2. Specialty: Basic Meditation LV1, Basic Frost Power LV1. Skills: Frostbolt, Frost Nova, Ice Armor. Evaluation: a powerful law-based profession that can control the power of frost for its own use, and unlock more powerful ice-based spells as the profession level increases. It has to be said that the occupation is indeed a bull ratio. Even if it is a regular Warlock occupation, the upper limit of its level is as high as 6, which means that relying on this occupation can be promoted to a 6th-level extraordinary Frost Warlock. However, the innate requirements of this profession are a bit high, and the basic 5-point spirit, only the 5th-level Big Naga can barely meet the requirements. Level 5 Big Naga plus Frost Warlock. Lin Xiao pinched his chin and thought about it, feeling that this combination is quite good. In this way, the Big Naga race has 2 promotion methods after the 4th level. One is promoted to the all-round warrior, and the other is promoted to the Frost Warlock profession. Not to mention the Almighty Warrior. If a Big Naga is promoted to level 5 plus a Frost Warlock of level 5, the two are superimposed, and its combat power seems to be stronger than that of the Almighty Warrior. If you wait for the Big Naga to be promoted to the 6th level Whale Hunter Knight, and then upgrade the Frost Warlock profession to the 6th level, the two kinds of extraordinary superposition, its combat power is absolutely abnormal. This thing must be loaded first. Next is the choice of 6 mythical quality 5-star cards. There are so many options to choose from. It took Lin Xiao more than 10 minutes to determine these 6 cards. A piece of basic exotic engineering. A basic weapon blacksmithing. A basic armor forging. A sheet of basic war mechanics. A basic meditation skill card. A 5-star mythical quality resource card, 1 million tons of rich iron ore. 4 systematic knowledge cards basically completed all the necessary knowledge of the auxiliary race he conceived, and a basic meditation skill card was used to enhance the spiritual power of the auxiliary family. Not to mention the resource card, 1 million tons of iron ore is for the family to practice. Whether it is forging weapons and armor, war machinery, engineering, etc., iron is needed. The reason why they do not directly exchange iron is that they have the idea of making ore into iron by themselves, just starting from scratch. After receiving the reward, he said hello to Lin Shu and Shen Yuexin and went back to the dormitory. They were also counting their gains, so they didn't have time to chat. Directly teleported to the dormitory to receive the reward, 2 pillars of source light penetrated through the ceiling of the dormitory to shroud him in it, and a steady stream of source energy was poured into the god's domain, strengthening the god's domain and increasing its stability. As soon as the 2 extra card slots were obtained, Lin Xiao couldn't wait to return to god's domain. At this time, the god's domain has changed a lot compared to the last time. The most intuitive is that the newly built city walls are higher. There are many more buildings in the city, and the original tribes have been completely relocated, including the huge altar being placed in the city. In the center, the original tribe was completely abandoned, and even the houses were demolished and materials were moved to build the city. Overlooking the God's domain, under the action of the God's domain heaven card, the energy concentration of the entire God's domain has risen significantly. The vegetation outside the city is more prosperous, more and more insects and plants are born, the sea is very rich in nutrients, and a large number of microorganisms breed to support the small fish and shrimp in the bottom of the sea, and also support the larger sea creatures. The salmon, black spotted scorpion and other large fish that Lin Shao had placed in God's domain before became more and more prosperous after they had abundant food. In the deep sea on the far right of God's domain, Lin Shao found a small community of more than 500 lobster people in a coral reef group. These lobster people are dozens of lobsters caught in the final exam before, and they have multiplied without thinking for decades, and now they have begun to take shape. What surprised him the most was that God's domain was so big. Every day, a large number of murlocs dived into the sea to hunt. Lobstermen were discovered long ago, but these lobstermen were not killed by the murlocs. Instead, they were able to multiply and grow. However, after observing for a period of time, I found out that this was the order of the big fish man Slarda. He ordered the fish people not to kill them indiscriminately. He asked the fish people to keep the lobster people in captivity in that sea area, and strictly controlled only a small amount of fishing, and controlled the number of lobster people within a sustainable range. To be honest, this surprised him, and he was quite relieved. Slarda's performance after being promoted to Epic Hero made him very satisfied. This is a very qualified pope. With him, he basically doesn't need to worry about some small things in God's domain. As an epic hero who has been promoted by condensing the essence of a demigod corpse, Slarda has a very long lifespan. In tens of thousands of years, it will take decades to change to the main world. As long as he does not die in battle, it is enough to serve him for a long time. Moreover, after a few decades, Lin Shao has already become a demigod or even a true god. At that time, Slarda will definitely not stop at his current strength. It is totally worthwhile to help him live forever with such a capable assistant. After browsing around in God's domain, everything was fine, and Lin Shao was relieved and looked back. An ancient crystal card, 11 golden mythical quality 5-star cards floated in the air in front of him, and the golden light emitted by the 11 mythological quality golden light could not cover up the crystal light emitted by the ancient god card. There are so many cards, only 2 card slots. First of all, this ancient quality Frost Warlock class card must be loaded now. With his fingers lightly pinching the sparkling card, he pondered for a while, and finally gave up the plan to strengthen it with the energy of creation. The main reason is that there is nothing that can be fused in the hand. From the perspective of the remaining 2 points of good fortune energy, the upper limit can be increased by 1 level at most, and it is promoted from the 6th order to the 7th order occupation. It feels useless. To be precise, it is not to say that it is useless, but it cannot produce qualitative changes. If you can be promoted to the 8th order legendary profession in one breath, you will definitely not have to think about it, but unfortunately it is not. For him, the 6th order and 7th order are actually not much different. Anyway, the superposition of the 6th order Danaga Whale Knight and the Frost Warlock 6th level occupation level will not be inferior to the general 7th order powerhouse. The upper, middle, and lower ranks belong to the lower tier. If you are promoted to the Frost Warlock 7th level occupation level, the superimposed arms level will only become a 7th order medium, unable to reach the legendary rank. Card fusion did not produce any visions, but all big Nagas will have an additional transfer option when they are promoted to tier 4 Frost Warlock. It is worth noting that this Frost Warlock is not the same as the Murloc class transfer Murloc Taunter. The Murloc Warlock is a bloodline promotion, not a profession, so all the Murlocs have a very small chance to be promoted when they are promoted to level 3. And if the big Naga wants to be transferred to the Frost Warlock, it must be changed to the Almighty Warrior at the beginning of the 3rd level promotion to the 4th level Big Naga Warrior. If it has already been transferred, it cannot be transferred to the Frost Warlock. That is to say, All the big Naga who have been transferred to the Almighty Warrior profession in God's domain can't be transferred to the Frost Warlock, and the new big Naga can only take this path. Don't worry about this for now, take your time. Next, Lin Shao summoned the magic cube, and then threw the goblin card into it to decompose and extract the origin of the goblin's blood. Then, Chapter 141 The Wisdom Goblin of the Third Family. He pondered for a while, and consumed 1 unit of good fortune energy to eliminate most of the redundant hidden genes in the gene pool of the goblin blood. Because there is no need to choose a knife, so 1 unit of good fortune energy can be done. Retains only 1 gift that was once forgotten: time is money. This talent is the talent of the goblins in the most glorious era of the ancient Goblin Empire. It allows the goblins to maintain the highest efficiency in everything they do, just like obsessive-compulsive disorder. Unfortunately, with the destruction of the Goblin Empire, the goblins were cursed by the gods, and this talent disappeared. Although this talent has no specific value, it is quite powerful, especially for auxiliary races. Then, Lin Shao threw the 3 talent cards of Advanced Kaiji, Advanced Enlightenment, and Goblin's Afterglow into the magic cube and loaded them all. Then there are 2 specialties, which are Spiritual Genius and Ingenuity, are also thrown into the magic cube to load. The last skill card, Basic Meditation, is loaded into it. As for those basic knowledge cards: Basic Exotic Mechanics, Basic Exotic Alchemy, Basic Exotic Engineering, Basic Weaponsmithing, Basic Armor Blacksmithing, Basic War Mechanics. This is a knowledge card, not a skill card, so it can't be loaded directly to them, they can only learn by themselves. Lin Shao plans to get a few more knowledge cards in the future, and then fuse them into a single card containing all this knowledge, saving card slots that are loaded into God's domain one by one. Lin Shao, who was looking forward to the formation of the card, was stunned when he integrated all the talent, skills and specialties. He found that the genetic strength of the goblin race could not carry so many powerful talents and specialties. He pinched his chin and thought for a while. His eyes fell on the last unit of good fortune energy, and after thinking about it, he integrated it into the blood source of the goblin. Doing nothing else is increasing the goblin's gene load cap. After 5 minutes, the fusion was completed, and all the talents, specialties and skills were all fused into one ball, which reached the limit and could no longer carry even a single card. It was quickly condensed into a card, and a crystal light bloomed, which turned into an ancient card as expected, with the following attributes. 5-star species card, Wisdom Goblin Ancient. Using the card, you can summon 2,000 Wisdom Goblins. Note: half male and half male. Race: Wise Goblins. Category: Subhuman. Level: Intermediate race. Occupation: None. Talents: Brilliant Intelligence, Time is Money, Goblin Afterglow. Skill: Basic Meditation LV1. Expertise: Spiritual Genius, Ingenuity. Physique: 0.6 Underage teenagers may be stronger than you. Strength: 0.7 An 80-year-old man's anger is stronger than yours. Agility: 1.2 Slightly nimbler than normal. Spirit: 2 + 3 + 2 Intelligent goblins have excellent wisdom and are exceptionally gifted in spiritual power. Evaluation: The Academy of Ancient Goblin Empire once studied a topic: how to make goblins have higher wisdom, stronger spiritual power and spellcasting ability. Obviously you have done it. Good guy, your spirit is over 5. 2 points for the basics, 3 points for the innate wisdom, and 2 points for the spiritual genius of the specialty, for a total of 7 points. Lin Shao now regretted why he didn't choose Pyromancer. Frost Warlock was only matched with Murloc Warlock and Big Naga, who played with water every day, but not with Goblin, who dealt with Forge every day. They were more suitable for Pyromancer. But he couldn't predict the profit. How would he know that the goblin that was fused with so many mythical cards would be so dangling? Loaded this card with a feeling of crying and laughing, and then issued a divine metaphor to the Big Naga's Slarda, and he didn't need to worry about it. He believed that Slarda could handle the new 2,000 wise goblins well. Wisdom goblins are temporarily unable to exert any combat power. Although they can be transferred to Frost Warlocks at the beginning, the number of them is too small in the early stage, and they need to keep seeds for reproduction, and they cannot play in later battles for the time being. On the contrary, the Frost Warlock profession can come in handy in a few days. According to the calculation of 1 day in the main world and 1 year in the divine realm, it will take more than a year for the exchange meeting to start. It takes more faith to let the new Big Naga family enter the ancient arena. See. Can you get a group of super-grade Frost Warlocks out? He was quite looking forward to this. Before, whether it was Li Shungyuan's double-headed ogre magician or kobold dragon vein warlock, he was deeply impressed. The master is indeed strong and has no friends. So far, the 2 extra card slots have been used up, and all the energy of good fortune has been used up. There will definitely be additional card slot rewards in the 3rd stage of the summer camp, and because of the sudden exchange meeting, the rewards may be more generous. Although the rules of the exchange meeting have not yet been announced, generally speaking, the more difficult it is, the higher the reward will be. If you perform well, there will be more than 2 card slots and cards of ancient quality. In God's domain, with the loading of the Intelligent Goblin race card, a portal was opened in the upper left corner of God's domain, and a group of short humanoid creatures emerged from it. This dwarf humanoid creature is only about 1 meter 2 or 3 meters tall, shorter than a murloc, and only somewhat similar in appearance to a goblin, more like a shrunk version of a human. Although it looks like a refugee, it does not appear to be embarrassed. The team is orderly and the clothes are rotten but not messy. Many intelligent goblins who escaped curiously looked at the wilderness covered with lush vegetation. Their eyes were clear, revealing the light of wisdom. To be honest, if it wasn't for sure that it was made from a goblin, even Lin Shao himself couldn't believe that these were despicable and dirty, timid and barbaric goblins in the impression of ordinary people. They were simply 2 different species. The fleeing team walked through the wilderness, and from time to time they could see bushes growing recklessly in the wilderness, as well as red wild fruits in the bushes. The young male goblins who guarded the female team picked the wild fruits, wiped them, and handed them to the female goblins in the team. When passing through a garden surrounded by thorny shrubs, they saw a dozen or so little flower fairies dancing among the flowers in the central large flower garden, and when they saw the wise goblins passing by, they all showed curious eyes. Watch from a distance. Lin Shao, who has been paying attention to the intelligent goblins, moved in his heart, but he didn't expect that more than a dozen elves had been born in the god's domain. All of them are flower fairies. Under the care of these flower fairies, this wild garden is very beautiful and full of life. He pinched his chin and thought for a while, and issued a divine metaphor to Slarda, listing any elf in the divine domain as a protected creature. Now these little guys are still small, and the god's realm is not big. It will be amazing when the god's realm expands and the energy is strong enough to give birth to elemental elves. At this time, the wise goblins had already passed through the flowers for a long time, and when they passed through a lush weed, a large wild fruit forest suddenly appeared in front of them. The female goblin goes to pick the fruit. At this moment, a dull sound suddenly sounded in the distance, like the sound of something heavy hitting the ground. All the male goblins looked vigilantly towards a large piece of barren forest on the other side of the dwarf fruit forest. As time passed, the voice slowly approached, and there was a sense of unease in the void. Suddenly, a certain goblin let out a loud cry, and all the intelligent goblins jumped down from the tree and ran back. Many male goblins formed a group with weapons made of broken branches and sharpened points, looking at the front with vigilance. Boom! The earth trembled slightly, and then a figure as tall as a mountain to a goblin stepped out from behind the jungle. A huge, scaly hand easily broke the thigh-thick tree apart, and then a huge anchor dropped from the sky. Boom! Smashed a big hole in the ground. The giant beast stopped 100 meters away from the intelligent goblin, but the sound of Shishi Susuo did not stop. The surrounding dense jungle was pulled away, and one after another giant human snake-tailed beasts that were equally tall and incomparable to the intelligent goblin walked out. The goblin from the unknown land, the supreme creator of creation, the king of the sea, the god of Naga and Murlocs ordered me to meet you. Slarda, who had arrived early with a large group of big Naga after receiving the gods, looked down at the little guy in front of him, and said so. Then, nothing else. There are so many ferocious beings who are like giant beasts running over to pick you up, just like humans go to an unknown place, and a group of monsters dozens of meters high ran over and told you with a kind face that I came to pick you up specially. You are going or go. For the wise goblins, this is the situation they are facing now. They have no choice at all. They are full of wisdom and they are sure that they can't run after measuring the size of the two sides. They obediently obeyed Slarda's words and returned to the city of Naga. Next, the intelligent goblins settled in the city of Naga in the name of the servant family. Like the little fishmen, they were treated as servants by the big Naga to serve them. This is the best way, and it can also make the wise goblins feel at ease. After all, if they really want to make them and the big Naga on an equal footing, they will not feel at ease themselves. After that, it is to guide them to believe in the God of creation and multiply in the city of Naga. Lin Shao did not guide them to do anything, believing that with their outstanding wisdom, he would find work by himself. It's like a human with high intelligence going back to the ancient primitive times, seeing a primitive tribal society that is poor and white, and will definitely try to create various tools to improve their lives. This is the instinct of wisdom, and Lin Shao is not going to interfere with them. Withdrew his consciousness from God's domain, Lin Shao received a message from Lin Shu inviting him to join a new group chat. When I joined it, I found that there were 6 people in it, Ji Gucheng, Lin Shu, Shen Yuexin, and several others who were also from Yunmeng province. At this time, someone was already talking and chatting. He came in and stopped talking. After more than 10 seconds, a boy named Su Tong who was not familiar with before said, "It turns out that the big guy is here, and the group status is reduced by 1. It turns out that the big guy is here, and the group status is reduced by 1. Chapter 142 Exchange Rules. The original group was useless, and now only a few of them entered the final stage of the summer camp, and many things were not easy to talk about in another group. A total of more than a dozen people from Yunmeng province entered the 3rd stage, but the others seemed to want to form their own small circle, so they did not greet them. The ancient city said in the group, "I'm all my own people here, and I'm not going around in circles to tell the truth. I received news that the next stage of the exchange will go to the Yanwang No. 5 war fortress in charge of the theater. It's unclear which branch of the battlefield, and of course we won't be sent to it. The main battlefield or the front line, it is estimated that it is a remote branch battlefield, and even the true gods will not be encountered. But it doesn't mean there is no danger. According to the reliable information I have received, this time the military is ready to make a real move, and we may have to actually invade the indigenous plain." Lin Shao sat in the dormitory and listened carefully. He had never heard of these inside information, and he had no channel. It doesn't matter where the ancient city came from, as long as it is real. If so, it's a little dangerous. You must know that operations led by the military always have death indicators. Of course, the military must do its best to ensure their safety in operations and plans, but even if it is a real invasion, there is a possibility of death in battle. Generally, the indigenous people are definitely not their opponents, but it does not mean that they will be captured easily. It is completely normal and inevitable for accidents to occur in fierce battles. Maybe many people will think this is too unreasonable, and elites like them also have death indicators. Actually, what about the elite? The enemy will not be merciful just because you are an elite, and precisely because you were an elite, while gaining more resources and honor than ordinary people, going to the battlefield in the future will itself face more dangerous enemies. It's pretty good now, and the opponents arranged are carefully selected enemies that are dangerous but not irresistible. If you officially enlist in the army in the future, you will not be treated so well when you enter the official battlefield, and you will often encounter enemies far beyond your own strength. That's when it's called danger. When the main world battles the outer domain and plunders hundreds of millions of plain resources to support itself, it will also encounter a large number of powerful crystal wall systems, including some super crystal wall systems that even the main world cannot resist. Although the news from Gucheng's mouth was reliable, it was not much. He didn't know where he was going, what type of mission, how difficult it was, and so on. He only knew that it was extremely dangerous. Now that we are communicating with the super freshmen of the Ivy League University Alliance, competition is inevitable. It is not easy to be alone. If we all form a group together, we can avoid the risk of being cannon fodder. There is no doubt about this. Even if it is an exchange between Huasha District and the Ivy League University Alliance, both sides will form a group, and some people will stand up to join others. People grouped together. At this time, the treatment of small teams and individuals in large teams is definitely different. In addition to Lin Xiao, there are 7 of them, namely Gucheng, Lin Shu, Shen Yuexin, Lin Xiao, Su Tong, Yu Shins, and Yan Shuhuan. Needless to say, their strength will not be bad if they can reach this stage. They are discussing it. After a while, a team was officially established. There are few people in the team and there is no leader, so the 7 of them will discuss anything together. But after all, the members are strong and weak, and the strong will definitely have a higher right to speak. Next, the 7 people briefly discussed their responsibilities and other simple issues together. There is no way to discuss the situation of the exchange competition for the time being. This will have to wait for the specific rules of the exchange competition to come out. Fortunately, the time does not have to wait long, just 2 days. Moreover, Lin Xiao received a message from the observer of Ether the next day. The rules of this exchange competition have not yet been determined, but the pre-selection battlefields have been determined. There are 3. At that time, one will be randomly selected as the battlefield. I will send you the information for a look. There was also an attachment that came with it. Lin Xiao confirmed the receipt and replied, "Thank you, teacher, you're welcome. In addition, if there are additional card slots, it's best to use them up as soon as possible to improve your strength." Click on the attachment. There are 3 pieces of information, respectively marked with the name. Wild Plain. A medium-sized savage plain, which is full of savage ancient forests and terrifying beasts. There used to be a god of beasts with a godhead level 2, but it has been beheaded by military masters, and now there are numerous terrifying gods in it. Beast. Broken Plain. Once a large civilization plain, there were many subsidiary plains. A huge battle of gods shattered the plain 1,000 years ago, and now there is only one broken plain, in which there exists a human kingdom and the vampire kingdom has a demigod each. Underground Empire. A barren plain full of rocky earth. There is a huge underground world under the earth. There are numerous underground civilization species, more than 5 demigods. Well, it looks very dangerous. Lin Xiao squeezed his chin, and it seemed that it was not as good as the plane he encountered in the final exam last time. You must know that there are several demigods on that plane, and 2 high-level demigods, but the plane itself it has been controlled by the school, and the demigods in it basically know the horror of the main world. As long as they don't provoke these demigods, they will generally not be actively pursued by those demigods. Of course, it doesn't matter if Lin Xiao and the snake demigod had a grudge early on. Now, although there are not many demigods in these planes, according to the specifications of the summer camp, their tasks will definitely be directed to those demigods. I am afraid that they will face the resistance of the natives of the plane as soon as they enter the venue. After thinking about it, he sent the 3 pieces of information to the group. Surprisingly, Yu Gucheng and Lin Shu in the group had already sent it, and even Shen Yuexin had already received it, but she didn't send it because someone had already sent it. After discussing it in this intelligence group, and having different discussions on different planes, Lin Xiao didn't say anything, just listened. He is not very good at this kind of thing. What he likes to do most is to take advantage of the advantage to go up. Conspiracy or something is just a supplement for lack of strength, and real men still have to be positive. 2 days passed quickly. During this period, he also returned to the realm of the gods. For more than a year, the intelligent goblins have adapted to the life in the city of Naga. With the help of the Naga and the Murlocs, this will be in the south of the city of Naga. A new small city was built not far away, which they named the City of Wisdom. As he expected, after the intelligent goblins settled down, their far superior wisdom made them very uncomfortable with the primitive life of the Naga and the fish people, and some intelligent goblins who could not sit still began to fiddle with something, such as drying salt, pottery, some simple tools and so on. Lin Xiao observed it for a few months, and had a sense of seeing the game of civilization. He only observes these changes and does not interfere. He wants to see how far these intelligent goblins can develop. As a bell that shook his soul rang, Lin Xiao received a message from the summer camp organizing committee. Dear Lin Xiao student, the 3rd phase of this summer camp has begun. Please stay where you are and wait for the transfer to the outer domain. Buzz. With a steep sinking under his feet, Lin Xiao felt that he had turned into a streamer and fell into the bottomless abyss, crossing the subspace at an ultra-fast speed. But after just over 10 seconds, everything that was stretched quickly shortened and the speed was decreasing. After a steep pause around him for a second, he felt his feet on the ground, and his eyes turned from nothingness to reality. He was standing on a huge metal disc full of patterns, and streams of energy streamed along the complex lines. The pattern flows quickly. Looking around, outside the metal disc covered by a layer of transparent light film, there are silhouettes shrouded in divine light on the square that cannot be seen at a glance. Among them, 3 tall figures with a height of several hundred meters are full of divine power. Like a tide, Lin Xiao's eyes fell on him, and there was an illusion that layers of tides were coming towards him. Students who arrive at their destination, please leave the teleportation platform immediately, and do not hinder subsequent teleportation. Lin Xiao immediately walked out, and when he was about to leave the disc, a voice came from his ears. Please restrain your divine power. He didn't understand the meaning at first, but when he passed through the transparent light film of the metal disc, the next second he felt that the divine power suppressed in the Warp War Fortress exploded violently, forming a dazzling golden halo from him. It exploded under the feet and extended to 4 meters and continued to extend for about 2 meters, but the color was a bit illusory. 4 points of true divinity, 2 points of uncondensed divinity, the law of creation, the priesthood of the new species, it's not bad. Lin Xiao landed on his front feet, and when his back feet came out, the halo of divine power under his feet had disappeared, but behind his head, which he didn't pay attention to, there was an invisible transparent ring that was shrinking inward layer upon layer, and inside there was a chaotic magic cube that was constantly twisting and changing shape. Surge. Unlike the last final exam, this time he left the main world and entered the outer realm. As a divine creature, his anomalies will naturally be revealed. There were already many students gathered around the teleportation platform. They gathered in 2s and 3s according to different circles. As soon as he restrained himself, he heard someone calling his name. He looked up and saw that Shen Yu and Yu Xin's had arrived early. Standing with the 2 of them in the past, he gave Shen Yuexin a surprised look. At some point in her delicate face, a strange-looking purple pattern appeared on her face, which felt like a tattoo extending to the smooth jade neck. Extends all the way to. It's not ugly, it's just weird, and the lines exude a faint purple light against the background, and the coquettish red in the pupils complement each other, sweeping away the original noble and awe-inspiring, and exuding amazing sexy temperament. People can't help but want to see it. She, close to her, kind of couldn't help but want to explore the secrets beneath her sexy face. But what he didn't know was that when he peeked at her abnormality from time to time, Shen Yuexin also looked at the back of his head quite unexpectedly. Well, I can't watch it, I'm dizzy. Lin Xiao couldn't help but press his forehead. He found that if he kept staring at Shen Yuexin's incomparably delicate and coquettish face, he would feel dizzy after a while, which was very exciting for them who had already arrived. Surprised. However, her situation is obviously a secret, and he is not easy to ask. Chapter 143 Wu Zonglin, whose divine nature is ridiculously high. As the students came out of the teleportation platform, they showed their true bodies uncontrollably, and quickly converged. After reading a few, Lin Xiao combined with the vision when he first arrived, and was surprised to find that all the students were walking out. The stretched golden halo of divine power was actually related to the student's divinity. Simply put, the more divinity you have, the greater the range of the divine aura under your feet. Lin Xiao has 4 points of divinity and 2 points of uncondensed divinity, so his aura of divine power has a radius of 4 meters and a translucent aura of 2 meters. And most of the halos possessed by these students who have been sent over are between 4 meters and 6 or 7 meters, and the difference is not big. Even Lin Shu only has 6 points of divinity, Gucheng has 7 points of divinity, and several other companions have 5 points of divinity, but Lin Xiao has the least 4 points among them, but he still has 2 points of uncondensed divinity. This one is only short enough of the power of faith to be able to condense stably, so it is considered to be the best in the team in general. As for Shen Yuexin, she came out early, and I didn't see her condensed a little bit of divinity, but seeing that she won the silver seat without showing off, and she became the strongest 21i in the back, her strength must be very strong powerful. In fact, Lin Xiao has never been able to see her strength. He suspects that her strength is stronger than he imagined, but he has no evidence. After a long time, Lin Xiao turned around and chatted with everyone. Suddenly, there was a voice of surprise. He quickly turned his head and saw a foot with a divine aura of 10 duoni, a figure shrouded in an invisible twist. Good guy, 12 o'clock divinity. This gap is a bit exaggerated. Compared with the ancient city, their level is directly stronger. As the divine power quickly subsided, a young man with an extraordinary temperament and a little arrogance was revealed. It was one of the 5 people who came with Wu Zonglin, who seemed to be called Ding Yi. Although the young man restrained his divine power, there was a distorted divine power in the back of his head that could not be completely restrained. He walked out with a blank face and stood alone in a corner. The surrounding students involuntarily gave up an empty seat. Not long after, Zhang Guan, one of the 6 elites, also stepped on the aura of divine power and walked out. He also surpassed 10 points of divinity, and 11 points of divinity was a little less than Ding Yi. In less than a minute, the third teenager with a divinity exceeding 10 came out. After that, it was Qin Fengyan, who had 10 points of divinity, and another young man named Gao Yongsheng, who also had 10 points of divinity. So far, 5 of the 6 elites in this summer camp have appeared, and all of them have a little vision. It is an abnormality that their divinity is too strong and cannot be restrained even if they try their best. At this time, only Wu Zonglin has not appeared, and almost everyone while staring at the teleportation platform, even the tall silhouettes of the 3 gods in the distance, whose faces were shrouded in unrecognizable power, frequently turned sideways. You said that all 5 of them have 11 or 2 points of divinity. Wu Zonglin is obviously stronger than them. How many points of divinity have they gathered now? Is there more than 15 points? Su Tong whispered while looking at them with envious eyes. Ji Yu Gucheng seriously replied. There must be. Lin Shu also nodded. At least 15 o'clock and above, 17 or 18 is possible. That's too exaggerated, we don't even have a fraction of him. Lin Xiao smiled and said. Be confident, we just don't even have a fraction of him. Shen Yuexin also said, if it doesn't far exceed our potential and strength, why would you be included in the Tianzhou Vice ranking with those seniors in the 2nd and 3rd year of high school? Too strong. People were amazed. At this moment, a halo of divine power suddenly exploded in the portal, and the dazzling golden light covered far more than any previous range. Before Lin Xiao could see who the distorted divine light was covering, he heard someone gasp. Air conditioning. Shit, blackjack divinity. Then the halo of divine power quickly shrank toward the tall figure in the center of the halo, condensing into a 3-meter-high body covered with golden dragon patterns. It looked 7 or 8 similar to Wu Zonglin, but with a stern face and a rebellious expression, with a pair of burning flame dragons on the head. Horn, a man whose temperament is completely different from the gentle appearance before. No, this is what Wu Zonglin really looks like. Compared with other people's appearance after restraining their divine power, it is not much different from what they saw in the subspace before. Even if Wu Zonglin restrains his divine power, his appearance is still very different from before. The height of 3 meters stands out among all the others. There is a layer of divine power distortion on his body, which exists even if he tries his best to restrain himself. There is a pair of red curved dragon horns burning with raging flames like ruby crystals on the top of his head. Looking at the dragon horns, I can feel a fiery feeling coming towards my face. Horrible. This naturally unconscious breath is so powerful, if you let go of the bondage and release the divine power with all your strength, I don't know how terrible it will be. Lin Xiao can be 100% sure that Wu Zonglin definitely has a priesthood related to dragons. Just like the god of creation he obtained in advance, it can be condensed immediately after becoming a demigod. Hiss. At this point, Lin Xiao suddenly thought that Wu Zonglin had already condensed 21 points of divinity. When he became a demigod 2 years later, wouldn't he be able to easily condense more than 50 points of divinity? Wouldn't he be able to get 2 points from the start? More than one powerful priesthood. Terrible. This is simply too strong to have no friends. It is no wonder that he was able to rank on the sub-rank of Tianzhou in his first year of high school, and there are so many young Tianzhou. Lin Xiao's current strength is not even on the sub-list of the lowest 3,000 talents. The gap between them is quite large. As soon as Wu Zonglin came out, 3 of the 5 elites stepped forward to stand with him, and all 3 were willing to stand behind him and led him. Only Qin Fengyan and Ding Yi did not want to live under him. They silently glanced at Wu Zonglin, and each left with a few companions. With 2 people taking the lead, and the others leaving one after another, Ji Gucheng clapped his hands and said, "See, everyone is holding a group now, let's go too." A few of them withdrew their gazes and walked in a certain direction to the platform, which was unknown how many kilometers away, along the signs and ground cursors floating in the air. The place where they were teleported seems to be a military fortress located in an unknown exotic crystal wall. I don't know how big it is. Anyway, it's just that their platform is thousands of meters wide, more than 10 kilometers long and hundreds of meters high. The platform more than 10 kilometers long is like a runway. There are many huge semicircular metal gates on the left and right sides. From time to time, an aircraft can be seen flying out of this metal gate and turning into another metal gate, or passing through the metal gate on this side and entering the opposite one. Metal gate. When these soldiers passed by, they slowed down and observed them curiously, with envious expressions in their eyes. Lin Xiao knew that the envy of these soldiers was their identity, the identity of the players in God's domain. These soldiers are ordinary soldiers, not God's domain players. Many people think that the soldiers of the military are all players in the realm of the gods like them. No, most of the soldiers are ordinary people, but they have practiced various powerful power systems with different planes, and all of them have the lowest level of warfare, force. This kind of non-God's domain player is called a soldier, and it is also the bottom-level cannon fodder with the largest number of military units, and uses a normal military rank. Soldiers like Lin Xiao who open up the realm of the gods are called non-commissioned officers. They are the elites in the army and use the elite rank. If they join the army in the future, they will start out as elite non-commissioned officers. The same military rank, the elite military rank is 1 level higher than the normal military rank, and has a higher priority. For example, an elite second lieutenant has the same rank as an ordinary major, and because of the high priority, a normal elite second lieutenant is half a rank higher than an ordinary major, and an elite second lieutenant can order an ordinary major. This is not discriminatory, but the tasks that the non-commissioned officers of the elite ranks need to undertake are far more difficult and dangerous than ordinary soldiers, and the treatment is naturally higher. But correspondingly, if the ordinary rank is still higher than the elite rank after crossing a major rank, such as a major general with an ordinary rank, then any elite rank below a major can be ordered. The priority of this kind of order is as high as that of an elite military rank ordering an ordinary military rank. It will not happen that the elite non-commissioned officers are arrogant and do not obey the orders of ordinary majors. Those who dare to do so will not end well. After all, if an ordinary soldier can be promoted to the rank of general, he has already become a true god on his own, and his level of godhood is not low. Divine realm players of the same rank cannot be beaten, but it is difficult to say 1 or 2 ranks lower. There is a huge gap between ordinary soldiers and elite non-commissioned officers. Even these ordinary soldiers are at the extraordinary level at the lowest level, and there are many legendary level powerhouses who can pose a threat to them, but seeing their eyes are very unified, that is a deep envy. Amid many envious eyes, they followed the sign for about a few kilometers, and they could see that the sign in front turned a corner and faced one of the huge metal gates, where their destination was. The metal gate is 20 meters wide and 50 meters high. There are thick grooves on the huge metal frame, and streamers flow through it from time to time. This is a mythical technology creation in the main world that combines modern technology with magic technology and other extraordinary technologies of different crystal wall systems. It can inspire a thin crystal clear film to cover the metal surface and enhance the metal's ability to resist various elements. Resistance. Various void warships, war fortresses, and puppet legions such as steel golems of the military have all used this method. They have strong resistance to spells, coupled with the super hardness of modern alloy metals. Aboriginal wars are extremely dominant. This gate has a thin transparent light film that blocks the line of sight and cannot see what is on the other side. When a group of people passed through the light film, Lin Xiao felt a moment of weightlessness under his feet. This thin layer of light film actually contained the teleportation function. When he could see things in front of him, Lin Xiao found himself standing on a teleportation platform with a diameter of only about 10 meters. Shen Yuexin and a few people from the ancient city were on the side. A steel golem with a height of 5 meters stood on each of the 4 corners outside the platform. Like an ancient armored warrior, holding a huge alloy sword hilt over 6 meters in both hands, it stood motionless on the ground. The group walked down from the teleportation platform and looked around curiously. The location they teleported was a huge battleship sailing in the void. Chapter 144 Communication and Probing. This is a conventional military type of void warship, with a length of about tens of thousands of meters, that is, more than 10 kilometers. The huge hull is made of specially treated high-strength alloys. Energy resistance is the most commonly used and the lowest combat unit in the military's expedition to the outer domain. Each void battleship is a combat unit, presided over by a true god of the main world gods, generally the lowest weak gods, hundreds of gods demigods, including ordinary demigods and high demigods, occasionally the strongest demigods, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers at the lowest level is also the 6th order extraordinary level, and the highest level is legendary and even demigods. Although these legends and even demigods are just ordinary people without the realm of the gods, they have experienced countless battles and tempered to reach this point, and they are still quite powerful. On the void ship, there are no newcomers to the realm like Lin Xiao under the demigods. The military has such newcomers, but newcomers like the military generally practice in relatively safe theaters. As a reserve, they will basically not appear in the void. Informal combat units such as warships. A true god, hundreds of gods and demigods, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers above the extraordinary level, this kind of strength is enough to attack the plane with the true god head-on, as long as the number of target plane gods does not exceed 3. The godhead level is not too high, all be sure to win the battle. The appearance of this void battleship is very different from the interstellar battleship in sci-fi, and it has a more magical style. Their position is a certain layer of the void battleship, which should be located on the uppermost layer of the battleship. If it is described as a super ancient ship sailing on the water, it is equivalent to the upper layer of the ship, with a huge hull below, a huge semi-dome on top, and the surrounding walls are composed of huge semicircular ship windows. The rippling protective barrier can see the chaotic and dazzling void outside the void battleship, which is driving in the void sea. This void sea is different from subspace or space. Space and subspace are pure voids, and the void energy inside is mostly silent, while the void energy in the void sea in the alien world is as turbulent back and forth as the seawater in the sea. Non-legendary powerhouses simply cannot enter this void. The location of their transmission is at this end of the void ship, and the location where everyone gathers is also at this end, but there are also several transmission platforms at the other end of the void ship platform. Divine creatures have extraordinary eyesight, and even if they span nearly 10 kilometers, they can clearly see the blonde boys and girls sent from the other end of the void ship. They are geniuses from the Ivy League University Alliance. The Ivy League colleges and universities in the ancient Earth era are basically in Europe and the United States, and the new Ivy League colleges and universities formed later are basically there, of Western countries. Hundreds of thousands of years have passed. Although the forces in the main world do not have any major grudges, the competition is still there, but the pressure of foreign enemies is limited to a certain range. The two sides continue to compete in various aspects, and both want to prove that they are better than the other side. This competition has lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. And this time the exchange competition is actually a microcosm of the routine competition. It will come every 10 years, and the two sides still pay attention to it. As everyone on both sides entered the arena, Lin Xiao found out that, whether it was a coincidence or not, there were almost as many players from the high school league as they did. There are thousands of people on both sides based on one end of the platform, gathering in 2s and 3s to chat and observe the other side. At this time in the outer domain, it is difficult to hide his own special anomalies, such as the purple flame tattoo on Shen Yuexin's body, the 2 small dragon horns on the head of the ancient city. Zhongguan Qinfengyan and other elites have special anomalies, especially the incomparably strong flames on Wu Zonglin's body and red crystal dragon horns, which means that they are far superior to others in terms of strength and potential. On the opposite side of the platform, There are also many students with visions, 8 of them are extremely abnormal, and 2 of them also have extremely exaggerated visions. The boy in the 2 had a pair of wings made of blood on his back, and as the wings flapped gently, circles of blood light slowly spread out. The other woman's body is like an ice sculpture, and circles of blue ripples slowly spread, and snow patterns continue to condense in the void and then quickly disappear. Those 2 are so strong. A look of worry appeared on Yan Shuhuan's face, and Lin Xiao glanced at him, as if his will had been taken away, meaning he was afraid before fighting. But those 2 are really powerful. Although they look slightly inferior to Wu Zonglin, there are 2 of them. No wonder they dare to communicate. The freshmen of this year's Ivy League are indeed unbelievably strong. But their side is not bad. Besides, the exchange game is not a direct battle, but in the form of a task. Lin Xiao squeezed his chin and smiled. If you look closely, they still can't compare to Wu Zonglin, don't worry. Lin Shu also nodded and said, we don't have to worry so much. The sky is falling and there are still tall people. There are so many people in front of us. We just have to be ourselves. After speaking, everyone calmed down and waited normally. After less than a minute, Lin Xiao, who was boredly observing the void storm along the huge windows around the platform, suddenly retracted his gaze and looked at somewhere in the center of the platform like everyone else. Without warning, a figure in the upper part of the body and a golden vortex in the lower part appeared there, like a lamp god. A strong sense of presence attracted everyone's attention. He opened his hands and slowly surrounded himself with golden powder mist, and said loudly, we welcome all outstanding students to participate in this exchange competition. Now I will announce the venue and rules of the competition. The location of this exchange match was decided to be held in a broken plain after consultation between the 2 parties, and now the Void battleship is heading to its destination. The specific plane situation and your task will be sent to you later, please check it yourself. The rules of the exchange competition are very simple. You will compete in the form of a team. All students from Huasha District will form a team, and all students from the Ivy League College League will form a team. Having said that, the lamp god paused for a while, looked up at both sides, and said, now please send representatives from each team to come and choose a mission. As soon as the voice fell, everyone looked at Wu Zonglin. Basically, everyone on this side of the Huasha District defaults to Wu Zonglin, who has no competitors. And he didn't refuse. He walked out of the crowd and walked towards the host in the center of the platform. On the other side, the 2 came together. It was obvious that these 2 geniuses who were slightly inferior to Wu Zonglin were not convinced by anyone. Speaking of which, Lin Xiao didn't know the 2 of them, and he didn't know the geniuses from the Huasha district, so how could he remember the geniuses from another district? The 3 walked to the host and stopped at the same time. They did not choose a task, but looked at each other. Wu Zonglin was alone with the 2 super freshmen from the Ivy League. Even if they were so far apart, Lin Xiao could still feel that the 2 sides were on the same page. Compete in the dark. Suddenly, a wicked smile appeared on the face of the man with the blood wings on his back. The blood wings slammed, and a blood-atomized column quickly rose and spread on the top layer of the head, and soon turned into a blood cloud covering more than 10 acres. The blood mist slowly fell from the blood cloud, and quickly expanded and burned into blood flames. At the same time, blue mist suddenly spewed from the feet of another stunning woman who looked like an ice sculpture, followed by a frigid cold light that exploded like lightning, and sharp ice cones spread out obliquely, layer by layer, as the blue light exploded. When approaching Wu Zonglin, the blue light ice thorns shattered into ice mist and dispersed, and the remaining blue light bypassed Wu Zonglin as the center of the twist, and soon formed an ice thorn purgatory with a diameter of several hundred meters. The host disappeared without knowing when, and only the 3 of them were left in front of everyone. It's up. Everyone stared at the center of the platform anxiously and excitedly, including Lin Xiao, all looking forward to it. Wu Zonglin's pupils suddenly lit up the moment they started, and a golden flame spewed out from the pupils. The flames of the dragon horns above his head were even more turbulent, and the invisible distortion beside him quickly expanded, and the thick ice thorns of the surrounding earth collapsed inch by inch. It became ice slag in the sky and forced to expand outward. He didn't use any earth-shattering means, but as he lifted his foot and stepped forward fiercely, the earth shook violently, and all the ice thorns within a diameter of more than 20 meters collapsed into powder, and the blood flames fell from the top of the head. Roll away. Jin Yan's swollen pupils looked at the stunning woman who was like an ice sculpture. She stretched out her muscular right arm and pressed it down. The woman's expression remained unchanged. Floating in the air, as she waved and pressed down, the ice thorns in the sky quickly gathered into a huge ice thorn dozens of meters long and stabbed Wu Zonglin fiercely. However, when he entered the invisible distortion within 21 meters, the shock suddenly stopped, and he trembled violently as Wu Zonglin stretched out his hand and grasped it, making a crisp, click, sound like cracking. The woman snorted coldly, raised her jade arm, and the ice thorn purgatory, which was hundreds of meters in length and width, shook again. All the ice thorns rose into the sky and quickly formed more than 10 ice picks as thick as before, which were pierced towards Wu Zonglin, and at the same time raised her head and scolded. "Road. What are you waiting for?" The man hanging in the air with a blank expression stretched out his hand, and the blood light in the sky flowed back like lightning as he stretched out his hand. When he raised his hand to the top of his head, the blood cloud in the sky was retracted into his palm and directly merged into his palm. It turned into a blood crystal composition, and the figure disappeared in a flash. What a cool move. For the demigods, this way of fighting is very flashy, but at this stage they have not mastered the priesthood, and the use of their own strength is still very rough, so they can only fight like this. Facing the full blow from both sides, Wu Zonglin's face finally showed a trace of solemnity. He took a deep breath, and the invisible distortion around him, which was exactly 21 meters in diameter, shrank rapidly, turned into a vortex and was swallowed by him. The golden light of the watch bloomed, and the body quickly swelled up. With a low dragon roar, in the blink of an eye, it turned into a tall and strong half-dragon man with a dragon head and a dragon tail. He opened his mouth with a deafening roar and invisible fluctuations like lightning. It exploded and swept across the sky, and the ice cones all over the sky swept away violently with the invisible fluctuations, and they all shattered into powder. But a blood-colored figure appeared out of thin air in the icy fog in the sky, and he didn't know when it had appeared on the top of the half-dragon man's head and pressed hard. The dragon head raised his head fiercely, without dodging or avoiding. He was pressed against the forehead by the crystal blood claws. Invisibly twisted and expanded, Wu Zonglin took a big step back, and a claw mark on his forehead was very obvious. Chapter 145. You are very powerful, but you are not as good as me. But the bloody figure disappeared abruptly, and reappeared a few hundred meters away, revealing the man's figure. He quickly restrained his strength, and said expressionlessly, "My name is Bart, you are very powerful." The stunning woman on the other side didn't do anything anymore. She changed the icy coldness from the battle just now, looked at Wu Zonglin with curiosity, admiration and some kind of strange eyes, and said, "You can call me Arya, you are the strongest freshman I have ever seen." Wu Zonglin slowly recovered from the half-dragon man to the normal form, and bowed his hands expressionlessly. "You are good too." There was a smile on Matt's face, who had been expressionless, and he was quite pleased with the praise from such a powerful opponent. However, another sentence that followed immediately made his face fall. "But it's not as good as me." Wu Zonglin changed his low-key and calm appearance when he was a black-haired boy in the warp. After showing his true body in the foreign realm, his personality has undergone tremendous changes, and he has become more flamboyant. He came to the host who did not know when he appeared again with a blank face, and said after a while, "We choose to kill the vampire demigods." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left, not realizing that Arya was radiant when she saw her strong muscles behind her. Simply cold, coupled with strong strength, Arya whispered with great interest. "Too strong, too sexy, only such a strong man can be worthy of me." Bart heard a twitch at the corner of his mouth. "He's from China, it's impossible for him to come to us, you can't." "Then I can find him. You talk to your father about this." Of course it was impossible for Lin Xiao to hear these words. At this time, he had already received the news that the mission of Huasha district had been confirmed, and he was checking it, by the way, to check the rules. The mission is very simple. It is the Broken Plain. There are two kingdoms in it, which are ruled by a human demigod and a vampire demigod. They choose an opponent as the mission target, and finally see which side kills the demigod target on each side first. And to destroy its faith is victory. From the point of view of the task, it is very simple. After all, there are thousands of players in the Ivy League High School League, all of them are divine creatures, and a super genius like Wu Zonglin, even if they are facing the target, they can easily kill the target. No matter how strong a demigod is, it is impossible to stop so many of them. But this quest has several limitations. First of all, the quest has a percentage of completion, which is calculated by killing vampires and demigods on their side. This percentage of progress is likely to mean destroying the beliefs of vampires and demigods, or destroying the vampire kingdom. That is to say, they must destroy the beliefs of vampire demigods at the same time, which can be understood as directly destroying the vampire kingdom. The second restriction is that they are not allowed to use the power of faith provided by non-believers in this exchange mission. That is to say, only the pure power of faith provided by believers in the domain of God can be used, and other power of faith obtained through trading or other methods cannot be used. Good guy, this will directly destroy those local tyrants. He turned to look at Shen Yuexin. This little rich woman's pink and tender mouth pouted, not very happy. Lin Xiao is quite happy. This rule is good for him. It happens that he has accumulated more than 90 million beliefs in order to condense his divinity. This will just come in handy. This rule is very simple. It is to prevent RMB warriors like Shen Yuexin from cheating. If there are no restrictions, she will get tens of billions of faith to enter the field, and she is afraid that she can kill the vampire demigod alive by herself. In addition to this rule, removing the extra power of faith, the power of pure faith accumulated by everyone will be much less, which can significantly increase the difficulty. Of course, if faced with an irresistible danger that may involve your own safety, you can use the power of extra faith to save your life, but correspondingly, this behavior is equivalent to being automatically out of the game. The difficulty of this task is not at all in how to destroy the vampire kingdom and kill the vampire god, but in racing with the high school alliance to see who can complete the fastest and highest degree of completion first. The emergence of the degree of completion made it impossible for them to directly attack Wonglong and kill the vampire demigods from the beginning. They had to spread out and destroy the beliefs of the vampire demigods separately before they could kill the vampire demigods. After reading the rules, many people looked up to Wu Zonglin. He was checking the rules at this time. He raised his head for about a minute and said loudly, "Everyone has read the rules. This is a team task that requires our sincere cooperation to complete. As the strongest player in this summer camp, I will direct this operation. Doing my part is speechless, no one refutes, and there is no way to refute. His strength is too strong, and the second place is 10 points worse than him, almost doubled. If the difference is only 4 or 5 points, there may be some arrogant players who will be dissatisfied, but the difference is almost qualitative, and no one will be dissatisfied." He could only hear him continue. "But I alone can't take the overall command, and to destroy the belief in vampires and demigods requires division of troops, so I am going to select 12 outstanding elites from all the students to form a temporary management team." Many people moved in their hearts and were quite moved. Wu Zonglin glanced at the crowd and said loudly, "I propose Zhang Guan, Gao Yongsheng, Zhang Shenyu, Xin Fengyan, Ding Yi." Speaking of this, he paused. These 5 people were expected. In addition to these 5, there are 7 places. Several students are looking forward to watching him continue to recite one name after another. Cao Hanyu, Ji Guangshuan, Zheng Haifan. 3 names in a row are the remaining 3 of the 9 golden thrones. These 3 people can still sit on the golden throne at the end. Their strength is absolutely powerful and convincing. Next, Wu Zonglin paused for a while, his eyes swept back and forth over the thousands of people, and seemed to be hesitating who the remaining 4 places should be. It is worth mentioning that among the thousands of people, there are a small group of those who were eliminated before the Wolf Fang and Fury, but they all defeated an opponent in the previous stage, so the 2 team mentors fulfilled their commitments. Even if they were eliminated, they did not go home directly, but continued to stay and participate in the 3rd stage exchange competition with them. Compared with the students who left in the other stages, because of the exchange competition in the 3rd stage, once they can win, they can still get the intended places of higher education institutions. After 2 years, as long as the college entrance examination meets the admission requirements of the preferred higher education institutions, they can have unconditional priority. Enter. Chu Yu. Everyone looked at a man with a lot of flying light whiskers behind his head. It was a light whisker formed by starlight, and as the dancing continued, starlight sprinkled down, like a dream. This is a top-ranked silver player who once sat on the gold throne, only to be kicked out. Wang Xin. This is a man shrouded in flames and mist, and he is also a top-ranked silver player. Lin Xiao. What? He was startled, looked up to see the surprised eyes of his companions, and then looked at Wu Zonglin. His eyes were falling on the chaotic cube that was constantly changing in the shapeless vortex behind his head, and he felt his eyes returning. When he came to his senses, he nodded slightly, looked away and continued to read the last name. Shen Yuexin. As if she had expected it, she blinked lightly at his slightly stunned, big, pretty eyes, playful and cute. Please come over and discuss together. Lin Xiao Yuguang glanced at the ancient city. Whether this person has always been the captain of the Yunmeng province team at the beginning, or now this 7-member team is vaguely pretending to be the captain, everyone has always assumed that he is the strongest. Thinking of this rollover. Well, it's not a rollover, it's just not selected. Lin Shu's expression didn't change. He had self-knowledge, and he could recognize his own shortcomings. He was calm, composed, and had a very good mentality. At this point, Lin Xiao felt that he was stronger than Ji Yu Gucheng. At least he can see that Gucheng's expression is normal, but the embarrassment and vague dissatisfaction can be felt without an expression. At this time, he must be very unhappy and unwilling. No one in the team spoke. Everyone was surprised and smart. They could feel the embarrassment of the ancient city. How dare they say anything? Congratulations to the two of them. Let's go. Shen Yuexin smiled slightly, said to Lin Xiao, and walked out first. Lin Shu patted his shoulder and encouraged. Come on. Well, come on together. Followed quickly. In addition to Wu Zonglin, a total of 13 people gathered together. In a place no one could see, nearly 100 figures exuding invisible distortions surrounded 5 tall figures and were observing the platform of the void battleship. One of them looked down at the 13th figure, nodded and said in a deep voice. Good vision, these 12 people are basically the strongest and most potential group. All the figures nodded, and one of them said. They should have already won special places, right? What do you want to say? Full of vigilance, the speaker paused, and continued to laugh. Are you afraid that we will steal your favor? Is not it? Yes. Depend on. Ha ha ha. Who told us to have priority? But you don't need to worry. Each of our 5 families can only choose one at most. The War Throne, Divine Wrath and Ming Luo already have choices. Only Shengjing and Wei Yao have not yet make your choice and get up to 2 places. This is robbery. If you say that, I can't do anything about it. It's just a robbery. You can only pray that the players you like are not too good. Leave. The dissatisfaction of the crowd made the man laugh, but a group of people were helpless. They came from a super academy, so they were better than them. It can be seen from this that the various forces within the Huasha district are not monolithic, and there are also various frictions and contradictions, but they are only consistent when facing the outside world. Of course, this is a normal situation. After all, they all belong to different forces. Each institution of higher learning is equivalent to a powerful divine force. Among the super institutions, the first-ranked Wei Yao and the third-ranked War Throne are even more powerful. It is directly under the military force and is very powerful. Chapter 146 Creatures in the Void Sea. You should know that this exchange game is a confrontation plot, and the focus and difficulty is not on destroying the vampire kingdom and demigods, but how to destroy their beliefs and then break the demigod's sanctuary before the opponent as quickly as possible. This requires unite all. 13 people formed a circle. Wu Zonglin did his part and refused to pretend to be the leader, and continued. From the information I have now, we need to divide our troops to deal with many vampire lords in the vampire kingdom. When that time comes, each of you will lead a team to deal with vampire lords within a certain range. The specific situation will be discussed when we arrive at the plane. He didn't say how to divide the troops and who to command whom. Obviously, they need to solve it themselves. He is only responsible for issuing tasks. In fact, I can't discuss any details now. I only know that there is a vampire kingdom. I don't know what the enemy is to face. I can only know when I reach the broken plane for on-the-spot reconnaissance. Fortunately, the void ship is very fast in the void, and the beautiful flow outside the ship's porthole runs across the ship's body, which is very beautiful. The void sea of the exotic crystal wall is full of materialized void energies. These void energies have different colors and are very beautiful like the aurora. This reminds Lin Xiao of a game called World of Warcraft that he played in his previous life. The outer domain sky has dazzling colorful streamers streaking across the sky all year round, and the void streamer is very similar to that, and it is beautiful with fatal danger. The void is not as dead as space. There are a large number of void creatures hidden in it, ranging from floating fish in the void to giant whales in the void, etc., and the powerful corrosive energy of void energy can instantly kill an extraordinary powerhouse. Corruption: only the powerful at the legendary level can survive in the void. The huge void ship is like an ancient void giant whale slipping silently in the void, occasionally alerting some void creatures hidden in the void, such as void snakes with countless spikes on their backs, like devil fish but huge in size, the behemoth of the void. These creatures are very ferocious, but in the face of larger void ships, these void creatures avoid them. When returning to his team with Shen Yuexin, the void ship suddenly passed by a huge aurora in the void, and just happened to see a dense group of floating fish in the void, only about 1 meter in size, besieging a void that was hundreds of meters in size like a devil fish, behemoth. These void floating fish are very similar to the small yellow croaker, but without all kinds of fins. There are many sharp bone spurs on their bodies, their huge heads occupy 1/3 of the whole body, and they are full of sharp teeth, which looks like a void. The version of the piranha is extremely terrifying in groups. However, the besieged void beast is not a good stubble. Although it has no scales and no horny armor, there is a layer of void energy on the surface to protect the whole body. Aurora and void floating fish were sucked into the belly, and Ben's flat body suddenly swelled like a puffer fish. At the same time, more than a dozen flesh holes were exposed on the back, and a large amount of colored void energy spurted out of the holes in the back like a rainbow fountain. Seeing how she liked it very much, Lin Xiao stopped, his eyes slid over her delicate and charming face, and he looked up to see the bulging belly of the void beast shrinking slowly as the void energy spewed out, and the swallowed void the floating fish had disappeared, and he said in surprise, "I didn't expect this big guy to have such a hand. I thought I would be eaten by these floating fish in the void." Shen Yuexin stared at the outside with a delicate face, and said, "The creatures that can survive in the dangerous void sea must have a hand. If the number of these void floating fish is 10 times more, it will be about the same. Look, these void floating fish will soon retreat." Lin Xiao didn't reply to her, because in just a while, the void ship had already slipped hundreds of kilometers away and left the position just now. The dazzling aurora outside attracted her attention, and his attention was attracted by her beauty. At first, she was only looking at her secretly, and then she looked directly at her perfectly contoured profile from behind. She didn't seem to pay attention, but after watching for a while, her eyes suddenly blinked frequently, and her delicate and neat eyelashes trembled slightly, but she didn't look back. After watching it quietly for a while, she suddenly found that her earlobes were a little redder than before, her neat and white teeth bit her red lips and suddenly turned her head, her eyes as bright as stars were facing him who was caught off guard, and scolded. "Don't you know it's very ungentle to look at a girl like that? So charming." When it was replaced by Lin Xiao, who would always be ashamed, seeing her charming appearance at this time, she suddenly felt an impulse, and said, "Before you blame me for not being a gentleman, shouldn't you examine yourself?" She looked suspicious. Lin Xiao took a deep breath and calmed his heartbeat, which had skyrocketed 2 or 3 times, and said boldly, "You should review why you were born so beautiful and charming, so that I couldn't help being attracted to you." Her pink lips were slightly parted, and after a few seconds, the corners of her eyes curved like crescent moons, and she hummed without turning her head. "Don't look at it like this again. Okay, next time I'll look at it above board." "You dare." Her reaction made Lin Xiao secretly delighted. Does her reaction have a clue? Well, it can't be said that there is a door, it can only be said that she does not exclude herself like other suitors. Whether it was before or since she participated in the summer camp, There were many boys who wanted to pursue her, but she always showed a clear rejection attitude early on. If she didn't want to change her behavior, she would have refused it a long time ago, but at this time. Strictly speaking, this does not mean anything, but it can be seen that she has a good impression of herself and does not exclude her own pursuit, which is enough. Next, they continued to stand by the porthole of the void ship to watch the beautiful view of the void aurora without chatting. He really wanted to talk about something, but he was stupid and didn't know what to talk about. Lin Xiao felt that when he went back, he was going to download a collection of picking girls online to see how those masters picked girls. About half an hour later, the void ship left this aurora area, and what was left was the pitch-black void sea. Only a small amount of void aurora could be seen occasionally, nothing to see. Shen Yuexin turned back and said, "It doesn't look good, let's go." Back in the team, a few people were chatting. Seeing that they came back to Gucheng, they took the initiative to ask what was discussed just now. Shen Yuexin didn't seem to want to talk. Lin Xiao shrugged and said, "I haven't reached the place yet, and I don't know much about the situation on the plane. Now it's just a simple division of labor, and it depends on the situation after arriving at the task plane." That's it. Gu Gucheng pinched his chin and did not continue to ask. But after a while, Lin Xiao suddenly received a communication from Lin Shu when he was sitting on the side of the boat and was about to enter his realm. He said, "You weren't here just now, the ancient city has the meaning of detachment." Quote? He returned a question mark. Lin Shu continued, "He didn't say it explicitly, but I found out that he contacted several other people privately." Lin Xiao thought for a while and suddenly asked, "He didn't contact you?" "No." "All right. It seems that Uncle Xiaodang has also been excluded. But when you think about it, it's normal. It's like a person who has always been the monitor. Usually, the monitor assigns students to the classmates on behalf of the teacher. Suddenly, one day, a student jumps on his head and directs him. It must be uncomfortable. Lin Xiao has no idea, because this is human nature, and the division is divided. If people are not convinced, they can also expect others to cooperate. The 7-person team suddenly became 3, and the little cousin was also excluded because of his relationship. Although Lin Shu had a good relationship with Gu Gucheng in the past, no matter how good the relationship was, it couldn't compare to the relationship between them being relatives, and being excluded was inevitable. I don't know how far it is from the destination. The void ship sailed in the void for a whole day, during which the void ship jumped 4 times in a row by teleportation, crossing a distance of 100 million kilometers. After a day, Lin Xiao finally heard the host's voice. "The destination of this voyage has arrived, please prepare yourself." Then, the void ship shook slightly and began to slow down. Through the porthole, you could see a dense spot of light in an unknown distance ahead. As the distance gradually approached, it was discovered that the rapidly expanding light spots were broken planes one by one. The complete plane looks from the void sea as light balls of different sizes and colors floating in the void sea, and these broken planes are like irregular pieces of a cookie after being broken. The void ship gradually approached, the light emitted by the plane gradually faded, and the broken planes were truly presented in front of everyone. The void ship slowly drove into the broken plane group, and many students came to the edge of the void ship's porthole to observe, and it could be seen that most of the crystal walls on the edge of the broken plane had disappeared. Just like the planet lost its atmosphere once, without the protection of the crystal wall, the violent void energy tore the ground on the plane, the vegetation on it corroded and exposed the crimson rocks, and the huge land was torn apart by the void energy, and was also affected by the weak body of the plane fragment. Gravity attracts and floats on the edge, like a floating island on the edge of a continent, or a satellite on the edge of a planet. Most of the plane fragments have been completely destroyed, and there is no life in them, even the creatures of the extraordinary level cannot survive. There is only one fate for them, and that is to decompose as the void storm slowly corrodes, and eventually gradually becomes smaller, until it is completely integrated into the void. In this fragment group composed of thousands of plane fragments, in Lin Xiao's eyes at this time, there are more than a dozen planes with a slightly larger area and a crystal wall of a fixed plane suspended in the broken plane group. The plane group that still maintains a complete ecology seems to be bound by an unknown force in this area, slowly turning around a huge man-made metal platform, and the direction of the void ship is the huge metal platform. Chapter 147 Entering the Broken Plane. This huge metal platform is a void base for the military, just like a space station in the interstellar era. It is about 50 kilometers in diameter and is quite large. At this time, a large number of small aircraft can be seen entering and exiting at the edge of this huge space station. Every time a plane group is attacked in the main world, a huge void base will be established there as an outpost, generally depending on the importance specifications. As far as Lin Xiao knows, this kind of void base usually has 5 levels, the first level is the lowest, and the 5th level is the highest. The void base in front of him is the second level void base. However, there are higher level void bases above these 5 levels. For details, please refer to Yanwang No. 5 Super War Fortress. A small part of these small aircraft belong to the base garrison, and more belong to civil organizations, such as the family team of the main world, the folk adventure team, the private company expedition team, etc. They enter the major super war fortresses from the main world, and then enter from there. The military bases in the crystal walls of the exotic region, and then go to the plains in the crystal walls to explore. Of course, there are not many people who have the ability to explore the depths of the void. Most of the civil groups are exploring near major military bases, such as this. Most of them are exploring near this broken plane group, looking for leftovers, treasures and resources in the shattered plane. Void ships are parked next to the outpost, but this is only a pause, and they will continue to send them to the plane of the mission later. Taking advantage of this time, they can buy information on the quest plane here, or buy various resources here to supplement it. You must know that every military base has a large number of civilian teams taking adventures. They take risks to collect a large amount of resources and will not take it back to the main world. Most of them are digested inside the military base, or sold to other adventurers in need, or sold directly to the base military, which is not a good thing. There is also a local trading network here. The signal coverage is within a certain range centered on the base. The higher the level of the void base, the greater the coverage. Now the coverage of this second-level void base is estimated to include dozens of nearby plane fragments. Lin Xiao discussed with Shen Yuexin, first purchased a map of several nearby large plane fragments through military channels, and focused on purchasing the plane fragments where their mission was located, including information on the human kingdom and the vampire kingdom. Then, Wu Zonglin called them again for a meeting. After half an hour, the two of them came back, projected the virtual map in front of everyone in the team, and drew 2 circles with their fingers in one of the areas and said, "I and Yuexin assigned this area, and Wu Zonglin let us take charge of this area." He glanced at the team, and finally landed on Gucheng and said, "I think so, let Yu and Su Tong, Yu Shins and Yan Shuhuan be in charge of this." And clicked another circle. "Me, Yuexin and Lin Shu are in charge of the other side, how?" Gu Gucheng looked up at him without saying a word, but Su Tong replied, "Okay, just in charge of it. If everyone has no opinion, that's it." Lin Xiao didn't have time to engage in any intrigue, so just like Gucheng's wish, he split the team and played his own. It is natural that he does not speak. At this time, Wu Zonglin sent a message to everyone. It was a big map. The side belonging to the vampire kingdom had been divided into 5 large areas of different sizes. Each area was marked with as few as 2 such as Lin Xiao and Lin Xiao. Most of Shen Yuexin's avatars have 4 images like Wu Zonglin's team, and they are 13 of them. I have divided the vampire kingdom into 5 areas. Zhang Guan, Gao Yongsheng and Zhang Shenyu are responsible for the largest central area. The other captains are responsible for other areas. If there is any problem or matter in the area, it will be handled by the person in charge of each district. Not bad. This allocation is very suitable for the summer camp situation and gives everyone enough freedom. The next step is the internal division of the team. Shen Yuexin shared the detailed map and information of their area that they had just purchased with the team, and asked him and Lin Shu to copy the map and information first, and said, "There is still a while to prepare, we can take a look at the trading platform." Lin Xiao scratched his head and chose to enter the divine realm. Originally wanted to strike while the iron was hot and have a chat with the beauties, but just now he sensed a small change in God's domain, so he had to take a look. Back in God's domain, I received the information accumulated in God's domain for the first time, opened my eyes and pinched my chin, which was a little surprised. First of all, after using up the remaining more than 80 million additional faith points borrowed from Shen Yuexin, 11 extraordinary level great Naga whale hunting knights were born again through the ancient arena, plus the original 17, now he has a total of 28 family members of the extraordinary level. With the 5th level arms and the 5th level all-around knight professional base accumulated before, the big Naga themselves have reached the 5th level limit, plus the actual combat experience accumulated by the previous blood count invasion. These 11 whale hunting knights are in after training in the ancient arena for so long, it finally broke through the limit and became extraordinary. And this is only part of it. There are still a large number of 5th level Naga in God's domain. As long as you accumulate enough actual combat experience and enough power of faith to open the ancient arena, I believe that more extraordinary families can be promoted one after another. Higher races, plus the ancient arena of miracle buildings, as long as the power of faith is enough, he can give birth to extraordinary arms in small batches. It is that the power of belief is depleted a bit fast. The power of nearly 300 million beliefs in total has been exhausted, and only 28 extraordinary arms are born, and only one is obtained with almost 10 million belief points. But then again, it is quite cost-effective to obtain a family of extraordinary level with the power of 10 million faith. Besides, the 900 large Naga members are now all level 5, so there is no need to start training from scratch, and the consumption will be less and less in the future. In addition to this, the second major change in God's domain during this period is that an elemental elf, a water element elf, was born in God's domain. The so-called element elves are not elves, have nothing to do with elves, and are not elements. They are two different things from water elements. They are creatures born from a combination of certain elements. Innate is an extraordinary creature, and Innate can use any water spells. Very powerful. This water element elf was born in the sea, is the elf of the sea, the daughter of the sea. Lin Xiao looked down at the divine realm from the kingdom of God, and at a glance, he saw a small elf playing with a big turtle in the depths of the coral forest where the water elements gathered in the depths of the sea. That is a little guy who only has a big body with a slap and a crystal clear body, surrounded by a little blue element aura, like a young girl, very similar to Hua Shanzi. She is very agile and lively, flying flexibly in the sea water. Her favorite is to climb a large turtle back with hill-like raised edges and corners on the back shell of only 2 meters square and swim up and down, surrounded by coral seaweed frequently. She nodded, and every now and then there were colorful fish swimming around her. Occasionally, I saw fierce carnivorous fish swimming by, and she was also spoiled and let her run around on a hunched back. It's really the elf of heaven and earth. Lin Xiao couldn't help but admire. His mind moved, his real body appeared in the sea. An invisible wave spread, and the elf who was playing looked over, tilted his head and looked at him suspiciously. After a while, he was exquisite with a happy expression on his face. He swam over to him and swam around him. He stretched out his hand, and the little guy fell on his palm and looked up at him curiously, and a confused thought entered his heart. Are you a father? No, I'm my brother. It feels weird to call my father. The little guy didn't bother about this, he just called his brother sweetly, stretched out his little crystal hand, patted his mouth and yawned. Unsuspecting tiredness shrank in his palm, and he felt a chill that was penetrating to the bottom of his heart. So cute. The newly born elf can't speak yet, and can't leave the realm of the gods now, and the realm of the gods will not be able to give birth to a second water element elf in the future. As a congenital spirit associated with God's domain, her strength will continue to grow with the growth of God's domain. If Lin Xiao becomes a god in the future, God's domain grows to a certain extent, and he establishes a god system. As the 4 elemental elves that accompany God's domain, it will come naturally. Obtained the title of the 4 elements, and became one of the 4 elemental patrons of the divine realm. Of course, that was a long time ago, and now she can only be a cute little girl who is in charge of selling cuteness. He used divine power to form a blister and put the sleeping cute in it and put it back on the back of the big turtle. He glanced at the big tortoise from the corner of his eye, and his eyes swept over the big tortoise's angular back and the slightly hideous dragon head. I thought for a while and didn't have an impression. With a thought, he traced back the life of this little guy through the authority of the Lord of God's domain, and soon found that this guy came from the huge turtle shell obtained during the final exam in the early stage. A small tortoise that was born naturally after integrating into the God's Domain Paradise card. Now, this guy seems to be a rare dragon tortoise. After decades, this guy is only so big. According to the growth stage of the dragon turtle, he is still in the infancy, and he is still hundreds of years away from adulthood. Fortunately, one day in the main world of God's domain for 1 year, this guy will become an adult after 1 semester, and then he will be a powerful sea beast of the legendary rank. Moreover, the turtles have a long lifespan. This guy has the blood of a giant dragon, and it will become stronger and stronger with the passage of time. It is not impossible to grow into an ancient dragon turtle comparable to a demigod or even a true god in the future. Lin Xiao left after staying in God's domain for a long time. Now he has left the main world subspace and entered the foreign domain. At this time, the flow of time outside is already equal to that in God's domain. It is impossible for him to stay in it for a year or two. When he came out, the void ship left the void base and headed for one of the large plane fragments. Several small ships from civil organizations left the base with the void ship, presumably thinking that the military had some action and wanted to lay it on the side. Soy sauce pick up some residue. This kind of situation is very common, and the military will not stop it at ordinary times. Instead, it is very welcome. It just happened to issue some tasks to them, so that they can specifically suppress the sporadic resistance in the occupied area. Boom! The huge void ship slammed into a gap on the edge of the broken plane, directly hitting the crimson land exposed in the void at the broken edge, and a large piece of crimson barren rock was smashed into the void and quickly melted. There is a small town on a highland a few kilometers away from this plane gap. A large number of metal containers are piled up to form a temporary town. This is the temporary stronghold of folk adventurers in this broken plane. The houses are all similar. The container house is the kind that can be dismantled and moved away at any time when needed. In fact, this temporary stronghold was located in a place that has now collapsed and disappeared more than 100 years ago. As the void storm continues to corrode the land on the edge of the plane debris, the temporary stronghold is relocated almost every few years. Without the protection of the crystal wall of the plane, this corrosion has no end, until the entire plane is gradually corrupted by the void energy and finally dies. But that is the future in tens of thousands of years, and it is estimated that this plane fragment will come to an end in tens of thousands of years. And this is not impossible to solve. If this plane can give birth to a true god during this period, the damaged crystal wall of the plane can be slowly repaired. With the existing scale of this plane and the remaining origin, it can barely support the birth of a true god. A wide rainbow bridge stretched from the void ship to the barren land, and thousands of players from the China region walked down the transparent rainbow bridge. Before Lin Xiao disembarked the ship, he saw that the woman named Arya from the Ivy League colleges and universities came to look for Wu Zonglin. He didn't know what to say. Before he saw Wu Zonglin, who was as steady as an old dog, his face turned red. After everyone disembarked, the rainbow bridge was put away, and the huge void ship vacated the plane and left the plane debris. It will go to the other side along the edge of the plane to put down the players from the Ivy League High School League. The void ship is quite a rare thing here. When it came, it aroused the curiosity of the temporary stronghold in the distance. There were many eyes looking at it from a distance. When the void ship left, those hidden eyes came out, one by one. Folk adventurers wearing exotic clothes, both the main world style and the exotic style, observed them with curiosity and envy from a distance. Most of them are ordinary people. I haven't seen a few God's domain players, and their strengths are uneven. Most of them are not even the 6th order extraordinary. They are between the 4th and 5th orders. There are only 2 legendary powerhouses, and most of them are adventure in exotic lands as a team. Don't look at all the players from God's domain that Lin Xiao has seen all the time. He thinks that there are many players in God's domain. In fact, the largest number of outlanders are ordinary adventurers. There are thousands of people in this temporary stronghold, and there are only a dozen or so players in God's domain. Core. Let's just say that the first-year high school students who were eliminated from a not-so-famous school like Dongning City No. 5 middle school, which Lin Xiao attended, were eliminated in their eyes, indicating that they had no future. Yes, it is true that there is no future. For them, there is no future. But in fact, outside, everyone is a big man in the eyes of ordinary people. Joining the army, starting with an elite rank, even if it is difficult to have a future or become a demigod, is not easy. That is also an elite rank, and an elite corporal rank is also an elite non-commissioned officer. For a few years of God's domain players, even if they can't become a demigod or a divine creature, they can hang a legend. Note: limited to non-legal legends. If you don't join the army and join a private company, you will be the core of the team at the beginning, or you may simply create a new team to serve him with the players of God's domain as the core. If you don't choose to work alone, you can easily recruit a bunch of extraordinary rank players, and even legendary rank masters are quite willing to cooperate. Don't consider it below extraordinary. Don't want. This kind of cannon fodder is not qualified. The most players in God's domain are cannon fodder. Thousands of them did not enter the temporary base, but stopped on a flat outside. A large number of adventurers who came from the temporary base looked at them with curiosity and envy from a distance, and whispered, "Brother, these are all players from the divine realm like you, right? What are they doing?" A dozen people gathered in a high place, surrounded by a young man in a luxurious robe and a beautiful mature woman. Answering, he didn't come back to his senses until the woman in his arms asked him coquettishly. He spit out a puff of smoke and turned into a giant dragon in the air. Xiao Yan sighed lightly with his fingers on the cigar. Yes, they are all divine domain players, and they are all elites. As for what they are here for, I don't know. A brawny man whose tight leather armor was shattered by his muscles twisted his stout neck and hummed. "They're like little kids who haven't seen blood." He turned back and asked the man, "Boss, can you beat them?" The man holding the cigarette stopped, and after a while he said with a smile, "They're definitely not going to beat me now. What kind of elite is that? Hey, your boss, I am a few decades older than them according to the age of the main world. I have been in the outer realm for thousands of years, and now I have accumulated more than 10 points of divinity. They have opened up the realm of God for at most 2 or 3 years. How can they compare to me? The boss is a bully. Hey hey." The man accepted the flattery of his subordinates with a complacent expression, and continued. "The reason why they are called elites is because they eliminated a large number of their peers in the annual final exam, and they went to the back step by step. There is a high probability that they will become demigods in the future, so they are called elites." Hiss. The big man's eyes widened and the boss exclaimed, "Shit, boss, do you mean that so many of them can become demigods?" "It's very likely. In the eyes of the man, this should be the deity school that organized the students to hold group activities. No matter whether he is a sophomore or a senior, he is an elite." In the end he warned, "Wait, they may enter the town, or ask you what, don't offend them, or I can't save you." This kind of situation occurs in different teams in the town, even in ordinary adventurer teams without God's domain players. Outside the town, the 13 of them reunited. Wu Zonglin's face had returned to normal at this time. He simply determined all the tasks of dividing the area and announced the start of the operation. Simply neat, without leaving the water. Then, Lin Xiao and Shen Yuexin returned to their team. The ancient city, which had been prepared for a long time, summoned a giant bird with more than 10 meters of wings outstretched, and sat on it with Su Tong and others. Shen Yuexin took out a luxury blanket and threw it, and it quickly spread to 40 to 50 square meters. The 3 of them jumped on the blanket and were about to take off when they heard someone say hello from behind. When they turned around, they saw 3 men, 2 women and 5 unknown students approaching. The leading man said loudly, "The mission location we chose is right next to you. I want to go with you. Is it possible?" Chapter 148 Children's Toys with Resurrection Technique. Lin Xiao glanced at Shen Yuexin. She shrugged and said, "I don't mind, you can make up your mind." Looking at Lin Shu again, he spread his hands and expressed no opinion. Lin Xiao knew what to do. He looked up at the many students around him who were forming a larger team temporarily, and said to them, "Then come here. It's just a hitchhiker, no problem at all." However, they did not sit on this magic flying carpet with them, but had their own flying tools, a small wooden sailboat that looked very delicate in the air, and the speed was not slow. The huge magic flying carpet can seat dozens of people, and it is extremely empty for 3 people to sit on it. This flying carpet is attached with a magic barrier, and during high-speed flight, you can't feel the wind blowing at all. Shen Yuexin sits on it slowly. He politely took out a small coffee table, a few cushions, and some tea sets, and started making tea on it. And Lin Shu also took out a small table and a large plate filled with fresh fruits. I lost it, can I still prepare these? Lin Xiao felt that he was just a turtle with nothing on his body. If he was alone, he would have to cross the wilderness to his destination on 2 legs. Well, you can do it by flying. As a senior divine creature with 4 points of divinity, you can fly. After drinking a few sips of tea, Lin Xiao wanted to chat with Shen Yuexin, but there was a light bulb on the side that was not suitable, so he coughed dryly, gave up after thinking about it, and turned his eyes to the outside. The location they are now in is an endless barren land. The ground is sparsely grown with some unknown gray or black weeds, one in the east and one in the west. It was flat and barren, not even weeds grew, let alone any creatures, and it flew for dozens of kilometers without seeing a living thing. Looking up, the direction they came from was a dazzling aurora at the end of the wasteland, and black spots flew from that direction to other places, which were the aircraft of other teams. Looking in other directions, the sky was gloomy, and the dark clouds gathered together with thick lightning blasts from time to time, as if it was about to rain. This doesn't really mean it's going to rain, and the black pressure isn't a dark cloud. It's just that the nearby space is weak, the crystal wall of the plane is broken, and the plane's source force leaks out, and the void energy in the broken place oppresses the anomaly generated by the rules of the plane. This situation gradually eased as it flew deeper into the plane, and the sky gradually became clearer. Even though it was still a barren wasteland below, the plants were more lush, and there were occasional small animals. After flying for about 100 kilometers, a big river appeared in front of them. The small river was a wasteland on one side, and the other side was steep and bright, and the eyes were full of green. The 2 sides of the small river seemed to be 2 different worlds. The magic flying carpet crosses the big river at an altitude of 2,000 or 3,000 meters, and there is a small town by the river more than 10 kilometers up the river. An ancient castle on top of a mountain. That ancient castle is the fief of a vampire lord, and it is also the object that needs to be destroyed, but it is not their mission, and their target location is still quite far away. Although this plane is a broken plane, the predecessor of this plane fragment was a super large plane, and the area was very, very large. Even a broken plane fragment, its area is between medium and large planes, between. The flying speed of the magic flying carpet was quite fast. The top speed had exceeded 500 kilometers per hour. It took them more than a day to cross thousands of kilometers westward to the destination marked on the map. The magic flying carpet stopped at the top of a lonely peak standing on the plain. The 5 people who came with them flew north separately from them. They went south, and the east was the direction they came from, about 100 or 200 kilometers. It is far from their destination in the ancient city, and I don't know if they have arrived. The task is very simple: kill the vampire lord and many high-quality vampire demigod believers in the designated area, as well as the vampire church. On the magic flying carpet, Lin Xiao expanded the virtual map and pointed to several places marked with cities and towns and castles and said, "Let's explore these 3 places first, and see which vampire lords and nobles are nearby, and find out their strength and distribution of troops. How about we wait until we get back? Can?" Lin Shu drew a circle on the virtual map and said, "I'm going to investigate this side." Lin Xiao pointed at Lin Shu's side, looked at Shen Yuexin's delicate face and said, "Then I'll take a look here, and leave the rest to you." Can? The 3 agreed that Lin Shu was the first to get a skateboard and fly out, and Lin Xiao walked directly off the magic flying carpet, consuming a small amount of faith to step into the void. Shen Yuexin raised her eyebrows slightly behind, stopped him and asked, "Why don't you use flying props?" He embarrassed. "No," she wondered. "Why didn't you buy one at the base before? I don't want a bad one, and a good one can't afford it." She reached out her hand to caress her forehead with a speechless face, turned it over from her pocket, and took out a small wing the size of a slap and handed it to him. "Well, this is my little nephew's toy, just make do with it." "What is this, and this set?" He took the two small things thrown with a puzzled look and looked left and right. Shen Yuexin suddenly covered her mouth and snickered, and said nothing. The magic flying carpet flew away. Hey! Looking at the shadow of the flying carpet, he retracted his hand and looked again at the plastic angel wing and another sword hilt with a mighty and exaggerated shape but also full of plastic. Angel wings, please grant me the power to fly into the sky. Just after reading a short word with a little shame, the small plastic wings in his hand shone sharply, turning into a white streamer and submerging into his body. The next second, the light behind him was brilliant, and a pair of radiant light feathers grew from behind. When he came out, he only thought about it, and the wings of light gently pushed him to rush out hundreds of meters away, dragging the white streamer. I'll go. Do children's toys hold so much now? He can feel that this angel wing is a very good magic item, constant advanced flight, feather of light and light, constant protection from evil, constant shield of faith, angel incarnation once a day, and other dazzling special effects. It looks very gorgeous. Looking at the exaggerated toy hilt in his hand, there is also a line of small characters on it. Angel sword, please grant me the power to eradicate evil. As soon as the slightly shameful voice fell, a dazzling light at the end of the sword hilt stretched out and turned into a huge cross lightsaber. Angel sword. Constant 4-ring priest divine power, constant dispelling enchantment, constant powerful expelling magic, 10 blazing strikes a day, healing 10 times a day, destruction 3 times a day, resurrection once a day technique. Good guy, there are resurrection techniques. Is this a child's toy? This pair of wings and this sword can be regarded as a heritage treasure of some churches on the indigenous plane. With these two things, you can pretend to be an angel. The constant spell representation has been in effect. Lin Xiao's thoughts moved, and it turned into a white streamer and flew into the distance. The flying speed of the advanced flying technique is quite fast, similar to the speed of the magic flying carpet in Shen Yuexin's hand. The area he divided is located on the north side of a large river of more than 100 meters. The terrain here is slightly lower. There are several small villages along the river, and many farmlands have been reclaimed. Many indigenous humans in sackcloth are bending over to work in the fields. Judging from the houses and the indigenous clothing, the production level of this world is still in the Middle Ages. Simple wooden plows are used, and there are only 2 buffaloes for farming. He saw a family of 4 who were plowing a field. A middle-aged man with rough, cracked skin and a hunchback bent down and pulled the plow. His son was pushing behind him, plowing the field manually. There is a table on a wide field dam not far away, and a pale man is lying on a chair, drinking water and eating, occasionally pointing a whip at the farmer who was cultivating in the distant field, shouting and scolding. The 2 on the side looked like peasant girls. One was pinching his feet for him, and the other was fanning the wind. It's an evil ancient society. The overseer was pale and was a blood servant. The so-called blood servant was the servant of the vampire, or the vampire who was not completely transformed. He also had the characteristics of not liking the sun, and was the right-hand man of the vampire. This overseer is definitely not related to the right-hand man, but he is just as abominable. Lin Xiao unceremoniously swung his sword down, and a white beam of light descended from the sky, and the blood servant who was enjoying the blast instantly turned it into a fireball and burned it into ashes. The 2 peasant girls screamed in horror and stood at a loss. Killing this guy doesn't change anything, but he just kills him after seeing it. Flying quickly across this farmland, Lin Xiao came to the sky above a castle built on the edge of a hill. This was a small castle, probably the domain of some little vampire noble. Just after he arrived, a blood shadow suddenly rushed out of the castle and turned into a cloak. The figure in the black robe looked up at the sky and found him. The 2 sides stared at each other for a few seconds, and Lin Xiao turned around and left without saying a word. This is just a little vampire. It has just entered the extraordinary level. It can be easily killed even without summoning his subordinates, but it is meaningless to kill now. Mark it first, and talk about it next time. Next, Lin Xiao turned a distance of several hundred kilometers, and checked the nearby towns and castles, especially the castles where the vampire nobles lived. It took 2 days to return to the meeting point. Lin Shu had already returned, and Shen Yuexin was still there. Did not come back. The 2 got together and marked the probed information on the virtual map to improve the map, and by the way, they talked about which way to start first. There is no big lord on Lin Shao's side, there is only one small town and two small castles, which is not difficult. Lin Shu's side is similar. There are 4 small castles of the vampire nobles and 2 small towns, and there are also no big guys. Now just waiting for Shen Yuexin to come back, the vampire lord in this area is estimated to be on her side. Chapter 149 Legendary Vampire. Hurry up, move and finish work early. Yu Shu kicked a strong orc's leg with a cigar in his mouth, looked up at the sky, and was a little worried in his heart. Yesterday, I received a reminder from the company that a group of elite students from the military have recently experienced training on this plane, so he should be careful not to be discovered. To be honest, he originally wanted not to do this business. After all, once it was discovered that he had sold the weapons of the Lord World to the indigenous people, he would face trial by a military court. But the wealth and silk moved people's hearts. The vampire lord gave too much, and he couldn't help but decide to take a risk and do another job before quitting. Now he has delivered the goods, but I don't know what the people in the company think, and he doesn't directly get a storage tool to pack everything. Instead, he takes a lot of trouble to directly transport so many materials, which increases exposure out of thin air, risks of. Fortunately, the orcs under him had the strength, and after a lot of hard work, they finally transported everything to the ship, and then it was none of his business. When the last box was loaded onto the ship, Yu Shu snorted the remaining cigars in a few gulps, exhaled a large mouthful of rich smoke, and waved. Guys have finished their work, let's go drinking at night, and be full. Ooh, the many orcs under him waved and shouted while holding their sweaty coats. Although they are half-orcs, these half-orcs are not natives, but are specially cultivated from the company's master god's domain. Their style and habits are completely different from those of the half-orcs in foreign countries, and they tend to be in the main world. Yu Shu bought a large number of half-orcs, who usually work as coolies. When fighting, they can use their weapons to go to the battlefield. Apart from eating a lot, there is no other consumption, which is quite cost-effective. A large group of orcs sat on several large carriages on the top of the yard. Yu Shu was surrounded by his men and was about to get on the carriage. Suddenly he stopped and looked up. He saw a beam of light shot up from the sky of the Lord Castle on the north side of the city and hit a black man. Pointing, he narrowed his eyes slightly, and in a hurry, he took out a single-tube copper tube telescope from his arms and looked at the sky. He saw a figure sitting on the magic flying carpet reaching out, a layer of blue light covering the magic flying carpet. Something fell from the backhand. Boom! A gigantic mushroom cloud blew out the defensive barrier of the Lord's castle, and the fiery shock waves swept hundreds of meters away, and the buildings and trees were razed to the ground on the way. Walk. As soon as the copper tube telescope was put away, Yu Shu left without saying a word. Above the sky, Shen Yuexin was surprised to sense the slowly awakening legendary breath in the depths of the castle. She took out a silver scroll and threw it. People have disappeared. After more than 10 seconds, the legendary aura woke up, and an incomparably thick viscous blood column rose into the sky, and the viscous blood in the center of the blood column twisted into a huge man's face looking in a certain direction. Xiaoqing, the huge face turned to look in the direction of Yu Shu, and the deep evil voice appeared in his ears out of thin air. I know it's from the same place as you, tell me, who is that? Yu Shu shook his head expressionlessly. She does come from the same place as me, but I'm sorry I don't really know who she is. The carriage suddenly stopped, and the evil voice sounded again. No, you're talking panic. Lost, the old guy is so sensitive. He was helpless and had to say, I didn't lie to you, I really don't know who she is, but I know her purpose. Say, she comes from a force you can't imagine in our world. The task her organization gave her is to destroy the vampire kingdom and kill the blood god you believe in. Bold. The legendary vampire was suddenly furious, and said loudly as if he had suffered some huge humiliation. The great blood god is supreme, and no existence is the opponent of the blood god. Those who delusionally kill the god will be punished by the blood god. Tell me, where are they? Yu Shu rolled his eyes silently and said, I don't know where they are, but I'm sure they'll be there soon. After a pause he said, as a partner, I advise your excellency, they are all powerful, you'd better prepare to die. After urging the carriage to leave quickly, he wanted to leave the city immediately. Although it's just an ordinary adventurer and not a player of God's domain, Yushu is very aware of the horror of God's domain players. Each of them represents tens of thousands of elite soldiers and is extremely powerful. Although Duke Alfonso is a legendary vampire, he doesn't think a legend can stop several Dominion players. Besides, he also knew that these Divine Realm players who participated in the Super Freshman Summer Camp were not only elites, but there must be big guys behind them to take care of them. You must know that you have violated the prohibition of the main world, and it is good that you have not been found. Once found, it is not just a simple imprisonment. More importantly, his actions are not just assigned by the company, and the business of the company is not as simple as selling weapons to the natives. Although he is only responsible for this aspect, Yushuin has noticed that the company seems to have other ulterior motives in this plane. By chance, he discovered that the company secretly sent several teams into this plane fragment. Know where to go and what to do. He had a hunch that what the company was doing here might be dangerous. Leave this plane to avoid the limelight first. After the convoy left the city, he took one last look at the city he frequented and left without reluctance. On the other side, Shen Yuexin and Lin Xiao had already met on the spot. After listening to her description, Lin Xiao and Lin Shu made the same decision. The three of them worked together to destroy this powerful legendary vampire first. The three discussed it and decided to start now. After discussing the details again, Lin Xiao and Lin Shu left separately, and Shen Yuexin stayed where they were. The two of them had to find a suitable place to open a portal to summon the relatives in God's domain. The three of them have a large number of family members, and they take up a lot of space when they are summoned. There are not so many vacancies when they are summoned together. Fortunately, the development of this area is extremely low, and the villages are generally clustered by the river. Even the territorial city of the vampire duke named Alfonso is by the river. Dozens of kilometers around this mountain peak are all primitive jungles, and there is no human beings. He separated from Lin Shu and went straight to the big river more than 100 meters wide, more than 10 kilometers away, and stopped at a gentle river bank. The river is clear and deep, with lush water and grass on both sides of the river. With strong eyesight, you can see a lot of shadows swimming across the river from time to time. Occasionally, you see huge shadows flashing away. If it is replaced by the final exam stage, he may have to be careful to find a shallow place before he dares to summon his family. But now, he landed on a slightly gentler place by the river and hung about 2 or 3 meters off the ground. He looked left and right to see an unknown beast in the grass not far away, raised the angel's lightsaber a little, and a blazing white flame with a thick arm flew out from the ambush beast's ignite. To be sure there would be no interference, he inserted the lightsaber on the ground, and a circle of blazing white flames spread out in a ring, and the turquoise weeds all over the ground quickly turned yellow and burned, and soon burned out a light sword with the lightsaber as the center. 10 meters of open space. Then he stretched out his hands to press, and a ball of golden light lit up in the center of his palms, which quickly surged into a violently shaking golden ball of light. With 5 fingers, he flicked the ball of light, and he opened the ball of light and turned it into an elliptical halo with a golden edge. The door of light rippled, and the melodious sound of the horn came from it. Lin Xiao stretched out his finger to point at the portal, and the surface of the portal shook violently, making a muffled sound like a drum. Such a muffled sound also sounded in the huge teleportation portal summoned by Lin Shu on a flat ground 7 or 8 kilometers away from him. On that high mountainside, Shen Yuexin's waist-like waterfall-like hair was blown high by the wind. In front of her, a huge door of light is exuding a strong light, and a 3-meter-high female humanoid silhouette is embossed on the light film and slowly propped up, and her family is being sent over. Boom! The huge anchor slammed on the ground heavily, and the huge body of the epic hero Slarta slowly emerged from the domain of the gods, and his body like a hill bowed down to Lin Xiao, who was standing in the air, with a calm and pious tone. Supreme Creator, your most devout Slarta is ready to fight for you. Your devout people are coming soon. Lin Xiao slowly landed in front of Slarta, who was kneeling on the ground, with a heartfelt smile on his face. He stretched out his finger a little, and the entire 10 million pure faith points condensed into 10 dazzling divine light. The ball slowly tapped into his forehead and fell into it. Slarda is his core dependent, his most devout believer, and his most powerful subordinate. His safety is very important. These 10 points of divine power are stored in his body and cannot be used at ordinary times. Only when he encounters fatal danger, it will be transformed into a divine power shield to protect him, and a teleportation spell will be activated to teleport it to his side. After doing this, he turned into a golden light and rose into the sky, and below Slarda's huge body like a hill slowly stood up, roaring like thunder. My cutest children, come out. Each of the 12-meter-long extraordinary Naga whale hunters rushed out of the portal with 2 battle blades, 2-handed swords or battle axes. The first batch was automatically guarded by the portal, and the subsequent spread open to rush around, and start to clear the wild beasts in the surrounding jungle wilderness. Several whale hunting riders plunged into the big river, and soon there was a violent surge of water. One whale hunting rider floated up with a fierce fish that was more than 3 meters long and had teeth in its mouth. Chew the other half of his head. Chapter 150 Thunder-Winged Man Lord of Heaven's Wrath. After the 12 extraordinary level whale hunting knights came out, the second batch was about 300 big Naga. According to Lin Shao's assumption, if the family is summoned in a harsh environment, this group of powerful men needs to open up the situation to establish a safe environment, and then they will summon a large number of small murloc cannon fodder. A steady stream of little murlocs were summoned and distributed around the portal. When a group of murloc warlocks were summoned, they jumped into the river and began to summon water elements. The water element is still the same water element, but now there are more murloc warlocks than before. In the previous summer camp challenge, Li Shungyuan's 3 armies summoned the tide and flooded so that Slarda could see the power of the murloc caller and warlock on the battlefield. When the murloc entered the ancient arena for promotion, he let the murloc be promoted if he could awaken his bloodline to become a warlock. Warlocks, try to increase the number of warlocks. Up to now, more than 2,000 murloc warlocks have been accumulated, and the total number of murlocs has exceeded 16,000 to 17,000. The number of smart goblins has not changed much, and the newly spawned smart goblins are less than 100. After being transformed from ordinary goblins into smart goblins with powerful potential, their reproductive capacity has also decreased. Now they are even lower than murlocs. In the Great Naga. Now all the big Naga in God's domain, including adult children and even newborn babies, total about 1,300, which is much more than before. This is still Lin Shao who takes the trouble to use the extraordinary ability of reproduction divinity to force the mother Naga to become pregnant. In addition, the big Naga has a long lifespan. Since the birth of the big Naga, there has been no natural aging and death. Accumulation. The beginning of everything is difficult, and the big Naga only reproduce slowly at the beginning. With their lifespan, as long as the base increases, the reproduction speed will naturally speed up. In 3 rounds of summoning, the murloc warlocks summoned a total of 6,000 water elements. These water elements stood on the water like ordinary people standing on the ground, and a large number of rivers converged to them to form a circle of waves. But in Lin Shao's eyes, every water element emits a faint undercurrent radiation in all directions that ordinary people can't see. This is the water element's talent for water control. A single talent is nothing, but when a large number of water elements converge, this undercurrent overlaps, and it can form an earth-shattering force that drives the river to form huge waves. Even if they didn't do anything, the water of this big river began to rise and fall slowly, and the power contained was heart-pounding. Boom! Lin Shao turned his head abruptly, and saw that the clear sky, more than 10 kilometers away, suddenly exploded out of thin air, and an incomparably thick blazing blue lightning hit the mountainside of Gufeng. A figure slammed into the air, and in the next second, countless tiny lightning bolts exploded with the figure as the center, and an incomparably powerful breath rose into the sky, accompanied by a statement full of force. Thunder is in my palm, I am the Lord of Heaven's Wrath. Epic hero. In Lin Shao's eyes, it was a humanoid creature with a height of about 5 meters. Behind his face and ears, his head was a ball of silver lightning that jumped. From time to time, he could see small lightning bolts blasting from the back of his head like hair. Spread out more than 10 meters of wings made of pure lightning, and with a gentle wave, the electric light overflows. Why does it look like that? He looked at Slarda, and then at the humanoid creature called the Lord of Sky Wrath. It was hard to say how powerful he was, but just looking at his appearance was really compelling. Well, the nickname is also very compelling. Lin Xiao glanced back at Slarda and thought whether he wanted to give his love general a fancy nickname. Well, find a chance to give him a nickname next time. Make a note of this before the summer camp is over. Compared to him and Shen Yuexin, who each have an epic hero, Lin Shu has only one elite hero, a half-elf ranger. There was no earth-shattering abnormality when he appeared, but if you underestimate the other party because of this, it would be a big deal. Wrong. You must know that this is an extraordinary level half-elf shooter. The frontal duel may be average, but it is powerful on the battlefield. The extraordinary level of archery is even more terrifying than that of a sniper. This time, Lin Xiao summoned 15,000 murlocs, 1,000 big naga, and only 200 wise goblins. Not to let them go to the battlefield, but to let them clean the battlefield after the vampire city and castle are captured. The IQ of the intelligent goblins is very high. Unlike the murlocs cleaning the battlefield, everything is a pile of anger, and some valuable things are like this, is easily damaged. In exchange for intelligent goblins, you may be able to loot some valuable things such as books. The various powerful mythological technologies in the main world are also transformed from all kinds of extraordinary knowledge in exotic areas, such as alchemy, magic weapon making and so on. Although the level of extraordinary craftsmanship in the main world is far superior to the exotic, it is better and more advanced, but it does not mean that the crafts of the exotic are completely useless. You can use it as a reference. If you are lucky and find some new technologies that are not yet available in the main world, you can bring them back to exchange for a lot of contributions and merits from the military, as well as real rewards. About 2 hours later, all the family members were summoned, and Lin Xiao closed the portal. As the Lord of God's domain, Lin Xiao can spend a certain amount of time and the power of faith to summon the portal again anytime and anywhere, and he does not need to maintain it all the time. In addition, the summoned family must be in the same plane as him. If he leaves this plane, all the family will be automatically teleported back to the realm of the gods. But if he waits for him to confer the gods, the situation will change, and then the family can leave the realm of the gods and go to different planes. Ordering the family to stand by on the spot, Lin Xiao took the first step to fly to Gufeng, and with Lin Shu halfway, saw Shen Yuexin sitting on the huge and luxurious magic flying carpet from a distance, standing behind her on the left and the right. A tall winged man with wings entwined with lightning around his back, about 2 meters 6 or 7, and standing beside him was the mighty epic hero called the Lord of Wrath. On the mountainside of the lonely peak below, there are wingmen flying in the air all over the mountains and fields, and a small number of powerful wingmen with wings wrapped in lightning on their backs. This is my clan Thunderwing. Shen Yuexin raised her finger and pointed at the powerful and extraordinary thunder-winged man who bowed his head to them, and continued to introduce. My family members are all air units, most of them are long-range shooters and plus-type thunder warlocks, so you will need to rely on you to attack the frontal forces later. She was looking at Lin Xiao. Lin Shu's main force was a half-elf shooter, and he couldn't be in the front row. Of course, her wingmen also have melee combat, but the wingmen warriors are still not good at melee combat. They are more suitable and good at flying in the air to open up a distance to hit the target. Once they are pulled close to the ground, it is like an ordinary person being dragged into the water. Just as uncomfortable, the combat effectiveness will be greatly affected. No problem. Lin Xiao slapped his chest and made a big deal. His eyes swept over the envy of each of her wingmen, as well as the secret surprise. He knew that Shen Yuexin was strong, but he didn't expect it to be so strong. The winged people themselves belong to a higher race. She is afraid that there are tens of thousands of winged people here. All of them are well equipped. The most important thing is that she has 70 or 80 thunder warlocks with 2 wings behind her back. Xiao is several times more. Not to mention the specific strength, they are all air units, and if they really fight, Lin Xiao will be crushed. Why ba, you have to cultivate a group of frost warlocks, otherwise it's too bad not to have a long range. Although the frost warlock profession is loaded, the time is too short, and there is not much power of faith to open the ancient arena. Now he does not have many frost warlocks, and his level is not high, so he cannot be put into actual combat. The three discussed the virtual map for a while, and formulated a siege plan according to the situation of the three families. It's very simple. Go down the river, take advantage of the murlocs and taunt warlocks, and drive the tide to rush the city during the siege. You must know that the city of the Vampire Duke is built on the river. The big river is close to the city, there is no city wall by the river, and the tide can directly rush into the city. Then, of course, it was a frontal siege. No matter how good the plan is, it is only to assist from the side, and in the end, it will rely on absolute strength to attack the city. Confirming the plan, Shen Yuexin immediately ordered the camp to be pulled out. The dense winged men rose into the sky, surrounded by the magic flying carpet, and flew to the river. Halfway through, they saw the army summoned by Lin Shu was pulling out the camp. His main family is a half-elf, and the cannon fodder is more than 10,000 woodland lizardmen, most of which are warriors and a few lizard shooters. The three parties add up to the main battle race plus cannon fodder with nearly 40,000 troops, which is already a very large force. The army directly trampled a kilometer-wide open space along the river wilderness, and it has spread in the direction of the vampire city of Alfonso. That city was named after the vampire Duke Alfonso, and it was the norm in this plain. Many cities were named after their lords or some legendary figures. As the army approached Alfonso, it was inevitable to be discovered. At a place about 10 kilometers away from Alfonso, Shen Yuexin's wingmen had discovered no less than 10 waves of spies, and the pioneer reconnaissance had already seen Alfonso entering. Combat status. When the distance between the two sides was close to 3 kilometers, Lin Xiao ordered the Murloc warlocks to control the summoned water elements to start taunting, urging the river to prepare for the summoning of huge tides. Although it will be discovered and prepared by the other party in advance, it is of no use. In this short time, it is impossible for them to build a city wall along the river immediately. Even if they know that he wants to flood Alfonso, he can only watch it come with the tide. Attacking the city frontally and flooding the city is a conspiracy. When the army was only about a mile away from the city wall, a rush of warning gongs could be heard from far away, and countless soldiers climbed the city wall with weapons. In the direction of the city, blood-filled extraordinary breaths rose into the sky, and blood shadows gathered from all over the city. In the castle of Vampire Duke Alfonso behind the city, Vampire Duke Alfonso looked at the enemy displayed in the water mirror technique, recalled the advice of the partner when he left. What a powerful army, he is dead. Yu Shu was not far from Alfonso City at this time. Originally, he wanted to leave the right and wrong place early, but he received an order from the company before he went far, asking him to find a safe place to stand by and wait for follow-up orders. He thought about it for a while, and simply stopped on a hill not far from Alfonso City. He was on standby while watching the play. He was also curious about how powerful these elites from the academy were, and how similar the core of the company's big team was. Then how? Chapter 151 Raid, Legendary Fanatic. Yu Shu is an ordinary person, and his parents, siblings, and sisters are also ordinary people. He can only check limited information about God's domain players from the internet. The resources that the company invested in cultivating those Divine Realm players made him jealous, and these Divine Realm players had already been eliminated by the school. He was quite curious about how powerful these elite Divine Realm players were. Boom! A column of blood rose into the sky, and exploded into a thick cloud of blood that was thousands of meters high in the sky. A huge face emerged in the center of the blood cloud. That was the Vampire Duke Alfonso. His eyes swept across the aliens outside the city like electricity, and a huge voice echoed between heaven and earth. Unknown aliens, you have entered the territory of Alfonso, the bloodthirsty son of the great blood god Piety. Please leave immediately. Cut. Bully the soft and fear the hard. Yu Shu clearly remembered how arrogant Alfonso's tone was when he left, and when he saw how powerful the enemy was, he would immediately be empty. Lin Xiao, who was behind the army, smiled at Lin Shu and Shen Yuexin when he saw this. It seems that this vampire duke is very smart. How about it, is it me or you? Lin Shushu raised his hand and said, "Come on." Shen Yuexin's delicate and small minibus was empty. He shrugged and said, "Then I'm on." Turning around, the smile on his face disappeared, golden light penetrated from his skin, a dignified divine might burst forth, and he took a step forward. A golden lightning smashed into the void, and a tall figure emitting a dazzling golden divine light appeared out of nowhere in the void, and that awe-inspiring the divine might made Alfonso's pupils shrink sharply, and the next second he burst into anger and shouted, "False god, you have stepped into the realm of the great blood god, and in the name of the supreme blood god, give you the ultimate destruction." Then, in Lin Shao's astonishment, the vampire duke actually knelt in the air and started to pray. "I lost it, legendary fanatic." Lin Shao was stunned for a while, then turned around without hesitation and shouted, "Go ahead." He was speechless, and Lin Shu and Shen Yuexin in the back had similar expressions to him. He didn't expect this legendary vampire to be a mad believer. They understand what a mad believer is better than anyone else. Just because they understand it, they know that when he reveals the true body of a divine creature, it is impossible to talk about it. At this time, in the eyes of a mad believer, an obviously hostile demigod appears here. It's a battle of faith. Because of the special nature of God's domain players are demigods in the eyes of the natives. Once the battle of faith is involved, it must be an endless ending, and there is no way to talk about it. Of course, they never thought about talking, but in this state, the enemy's resistance will be more tenacious, and the battle damage will be larger later. Most importantly, judging from the fact that this vampire demigod has a legendary level of mad believers, this vampire demigod is stronger than they thought. The information given by the military was only an ordinary demigod and not a high-level demigod. Lin Shao felt that it was not the case. Even if it wasn't a high-level demigod, it was a senior demigod. Get ready to welcome the incarnation of the blood god. Lin Shao reminded the two of them that Slarda, who was on the bank of the big river, raised a huge anchor and shouted loudly, "Move the tides." The Murloc warlocks and the water elements, who had been sunk in the river for a long time, surfaced together, occupying a 7 or 8 kilometer long river from the beginning to the end. Circles of light blue ripples swayed around them, and the river began to surge. At the same time, the semi-elite ranger heroes under Lin Shu raised their bows and shouted, and many woodland lizards and some murlocs began to approach the city wall. Shen Yuexin's Lord of Sky Wrath roared with lightning in his hand, and many winged men soared into the sky and rushed towards the city. And the defenders in the city of Alfonso were not to be outdone. The large open space behind the city wall and the roof of the house were filled with archers. With the swing of a vampire general's sword, the sound of dense bowstrings sounded, and arrows shot into the sky. The pounced wingmen and the woodland lizardmen and murlocs approaching the city walls. A bed crossbow on the city wall continued to vibrate, the crossbow string collapsed and muffled, and one after another large finger-thick steel crossbow arrows shot down. A large number of stones were pushed on the edge of the parapet of the city wall, and soldiers picked up the stones and guarded the edge of the battlements, and behind them were rows of spearmen. A large group of heavy cavalry has gathered in the large open space at the gate of the city, and several extraordinary blood knights riding the same armored horses stood quietly in front of the formation, waiting for orders. Invisible fluctuations spread out on several towers in the center of the city. Powerful magical fluctuations emerged, and the void began to distort. Boom! As a boulder was thrown by Slarda over 1,000 meters, the thick city gate was smashed into a depression, and the brutal siege battle officially broke out. More than 4,000 elf archers shot 12 arrows in a row in one breath, forming a rain of arrows that covered the sky and covered most of the city wall with precision, and countless defenders were nailed to the ground. When it comes to archery, few races can compare to elves. 7 or 8,000 winged people flew over the city wall from an altitude of 1,000 meters, and threw a javelin from a height. What was the concept of throwing a 2-meter-long javelin with the thickness of an egg from an altitude of 1,000 meters? Even if there is no need to use force, just the consistency of gravity is smashed at a distance of more than 1,000 meters. Even thick armor cannot resist this impact. As long as it hits, it must pass through the body, and the city wall immediately shoots down. But more shots were shot in the air, and large pits more than 10 centimeters deep were poked on the city wall, and countless gravel splashed. After 6 consecutive waves of nearly 50,000 javelins were thrown, the damage to the defenders on the city wall was catastrophic. This kind of attack from the sky was difficult to resist. In less than 2 minutes, the defenders on the city wall were killed on the spot by more than 10%, countless injured, and their morale plummeted. At this time, the water level of the big river on the edge of the city has risen a lot under the urging of the Murloc Warlock and the water element. At first, the enemy didn't pay attention, but as the river rose more than 1 meter, they were finally discovered when it flooded the First Order pier. Only then did they discover the abnormality of the river. An extraordinary blood mage wearing a gorgeous robe on the high tower in the city hesitated for a while, raised his hands and moved, already condensed a huge magic fireball that wrapped the spires of 20 or 30 meters in diameter, and turned around, steeply from the middle. A column of flames with a diameter of several meters was sprayed straight into the river several kilometers away. Boom! The terrifying dark red flames exploded, blasting a hole hundreds of meters in diameter in the middle of the river, and the water or the soil in the riverbank was blown away. Hundreds of water elements, as well as hundreds of murlocs and a dozen big nagas evaporated on the spot without even slag. Shit, Lin Xiao felt as if his heart had been pricked by a needle, and it hurt so much. Looking at the spells of the other 2 magic towers, they were already formed and just blasted out. He couldn't help but think, and his body flashed in the direction of the bombardment of one of the flames. The dazzling golden light exploded into a ball covering hundreds of meters. The violently surging flames blocked the flames. But he was not happy at all, and rushed out of the still rolling flames to look in the direction of the bombardment of another flaming fire column. There are only 3 magic towers in the city, and the interval between each casting of this terrifying strategic spell is measured in minutes, so there is no need to worry in a short time. And this magic tower does not necessarily have a second chance to cast. The tides of the murlocs and the water elements have already formed and are flocking to the city. The ships parked at the city's wharf soon surpassed the wharf and landed on the shore as the water level rose. Rush away. The higher and higher water level flooded the pier, carrying people on the pier and various debris into the city. This is only the first wave of torrents, and within half a minute of this second wave of higher torrents has arrived, and a large number of murlocs and nagas are hidden in the torrents. In the face of the power of nature, the extraordinary powerhouses in the city were helpless. The defenders who came to face the torrent also could only hide in the houses on the side of the road, watching the floods wash away the short houses and rush into the city. A large number of Murloc Naga rushed into the city along the torrent, destroying and slaughtering. In this environment, the armor on the soldiers became a reminder, and the heavy ones could not float. Within minutes the city of Alfonso fell on the river side. And all this, the legendary vampire Duke in the sky ignored it and continued to pray. Lin Xiao knew that he was communicating and calling for a vampire demigod. If successful, it was possible to summon a vampire demigod clone to come. For non-gods domain players, this is a bad thing, and it must be stopped, but it is a good thing for them. The arrival of a demigod incarnate means at least a bit of divinity, so why stop it? So they knew that Duke Alfonso was communicating with the blood god, but none of them stopped them, but instead prayed for a successful communication. It's just a demigod incarnation, and they can handle it. At this time, the main force of the 3 of them had already rushed under the city wall. Many big nagas threw stones picked up on the road from a distance. A whale-hunting knight picked up a huge stone and aimed at the city gate and smashed it down, picking up a large stone. The shield was carried on the shoulder list and aimed at the city gate to start the salted fish thrusting, and it slammed into the city gate like an arrow from the string. Boom! The deafening loud noise could be heard even by Yu Shu, who was several kilometers away. He looked into the distance with a single-tube copper tube telescope, and saw a big guy with a snake tail more than 10 meters long slammed into the city gate and directly one blow knocked out a large pit in the center of the thick city gate. The groggy Transcendent Naga turned over and hid to the side, the second Transcendent Naga had already bumped up, and then the third. There were 5 deafening loud noises in a row, and the city gate that was distorted and deformed in some places was knocked open, and the 6th Transcendent Naga got into the city gate alley. 4 or 5 meters above the city gate alley on both sides there are gaps in each, and the guards inside pushed the large stones down from above and smashed them with a bang bang. The whale-hunting knight with 2 two-handed swords slammed his hands and smashed a city gate that was far less sturdy than the outer city gate at the inner end of the city gate lane and rushed into the city. Chapter 152 The Incarnation of the Vampire Demigod comes. The seriously waiting defenders on the square in the city quickly moved forward. Hundreds of arrows shot down, mixed with the screams of a dozen crossbows, and the whale hunter knight who had just emerged from the city gate alley was fierce. Leaning back, more than a dozen thick steel crossbow arrows were inserted into his body, as well as a few ordinary arrows that were inserted crookedly. "Keep going," the commander of the defending army waved and shouted, and the second wave of arrows shot out again. The second wave of arrows from this extraordinary big Naga hardtop climbed out of the city gate to make way for the exit, and the second whale hunting knight rushed in through the city gate alley. It flew everywhere, shouting and rushing towards the enemy phalanx that was waiting in the square. Then the third, fourth, fifth, and a large group of Murloc cannon fodder and woodland lizardman cannon fodder poured in, and the square suddenly became a mess. When a large group of Murloc Naga attacked the city by the river, the city gate was broken, and the city was captured sooner or later. The difference was when the opponent was completely defeated and how much the loss was. After all, the difference in strength is too great. They have not used their full strength. At least their 3 heroes have not yet participated in the battle. Shen Yuexin's hero, not only the Lord of Sky Wrath, has not participated in the battle, but the 70 or 80 Sky Wrath warlocks have not yet participated in the battle. In addition, they almost directly attacked the city by means of a surprise attack. Blood Duke Alfonso was not prepared at all, and the troops were not concentrated. There were only less than 20,000 defenders in the headquarters, and other troops were not here. You must know that when Lin Xiao faced the invasion of the Blood Earl, everyone had a blood army of 30,000 to 40,000. The Duke was stronger than the Earl, and there was no reason to have only this army. Lin Xiao narrowed his eyes and looked at the vampire duke, who was shrouded in a layer of invisible distortion. At this time, he could already sense that a powerful pressure that did not belong to the vampire Duke Alfonso was slowly emerging. It was obvious that the vampire demigods attached great importance to this legendary level. The mad believers have already responded, and they are probably preparing for the clone to come. In a frenzy, Alfonso didn't even care about his own territory. Without him, the legendary vampire, he could not stop them. Even if there are quite a few extraordinary vampires in the city, it is useless. Without the advantage of the city, many big Naga rampaged unstoppably with their hegemony, smashing the defenders at the gate of the city two back and forth in one breath. A full-body armored extraordinary blood knight waved the blood-colored giant sword and pointed forward. The blood shadow flashed across a distance of hundreds of meters and slammed into the back of an extraordinary big Naga. The blood sword of more than 2 meters passed through the thick scales and strong the incomparable muscles penetrated straight into the body without the handle, and the tip of the sword passed through the body and emerged from the other side. The whale rider in the middle of the sword twisted his body as if he was not injured, and was cut down by 2 great swords with both hands. The tyrannical muscles just clamped the blood sword and couldn't pull it out for a while. The mistake at this moment is fatal in the battle at the extraordinary level. Moreover, the whale knight itself is stronger than the blood knight. At this moment, the 2 two-handed swords slashed the blood knight, who did not have time to escape even if he resolutely abandoned the sword mount. Only 2 piercing ripping sounds and the screams of "Show Lulu" could be heard. The blood knight was split in half with his horse and man, and even his thick armor was cut open. However, at the moment when the blood knight was beheaded, a column of flames several meters in diameter shot out from the tower in the center of the city and shot the whale knight. The terrifying power of the strategic spell directly burned the whale knight below the waist to ashes. The dark red flames generated by the explosion covered a range of hundreds of meters, and a single blow blew a huge pit out of the entire city gate. I don't know how many Murlocs and Naga died in this terrifying blow at the same time. However, the terrifying power of the war-level spell did not affect Lin Xiao's devout and high-spirited family members, who had already rushed into the city to continue their attack, and then continued to rush into the city along the gap. With their super physique and vitality, the head-to-head whale hunter knights push sideways in a way of fighting for injuries, which is better than the blood knights, and these blood knights can't fight at all. In less than 5 minutes, more than a dozen extraordinary blood knights were killed or injured, and the rest led the remaining defenders to abandon the city's periphery and retreated to the 3 magic towers in the city, where they stood guard. These 3 magic towers are guarded by Duke Alfonso's mage group. This kind of magic tower is not the legendary mage tower, but a kind of war building, spell power and the ability to cast high-power war spells. It has only been 10 minutes since the siege of the city, these 3 magic towers have already cast 5 waves of terrifying war-level spells. 2 extraordinary Naga have been killed in battle, and 4 were seriously injured and had to withdraw from the battle. However, his family's will is still strong enough. Facing such a terrifying spell, his morale is still high. On the contrary, the defenders in the city could not withstand this indiscriminate terror attack, and instead collapsed first, and a small number of defenders had given up their resistance and fled into the city. Above the sky, a large number of wingmen have crossed the city wall and entered the city, and many wingmen are surrounded by dozens of thunder wingmen. These extraordinary level thunder wingmen themselves have the talent to control lightning, and Shen Yuexin specially loaded them with the thunder warlock profession. The combination of the two is particularly powerful. I saw that their hands were vacant, and a bolt of lightning was bound into a series of blazing blue lightning javelins with thick arms and hurled down. Boom boom. The lightning with arms 2 or 3 meters long hit the target and exploded like a missile, and countless lightnings flew to destroy everything within the range. The killing range is not as good as that of the Kobold Dragon Warlock's Dragon Breath, but the direct lethality within the range is terrifying, and the lightning also causes a huge amount of extra damage to evil creatures such as undead demons. Vampires are proper evil creatures, and they are within the scope of being sanctioned by lightning. A lightning javelin throws down any non-supernormal level vampires in an instant, and even a supernormal level Blood Knight will be injured in one move. Dozens of thunder warlocks bombarded indiscriminately, and all the buildings around the 3 magic towers were razed to the ground. A large number of soldiers were killed by the aftermath and fled in all directions, and were intercepted and annihilated by the Murloc Naga who came from all sides. The 3 of Lin Shao stood quietly in the void outside the city and looked in the direction of Alfonso, but their eyes did not pay attention to the battle in the city. Even if there were 3 magic towers, this kind of powerful but long cooling time war buildings without friendly forces to buy time or waste. Under the repeated blows of dozens of thunder warlocks, the blood mage in the tower is now too tired to defend, and it is estimated that the next round of war spells will not be used. The focus of their attention was on the vampire Duke Alfonso, who had finished praying. With the constant prayers of this legendary fanatic and the death of a large number of believers, the vampire demigod finally answered the prayer and began to descend. In their induction, a powerful and evil will is appearing in this space, and its power is gathering. If the 3 of them made a move now, they could forcibly interrupt them before they came, and a legendary vampire could not stop them. But without this is exactly the good thing they dreamed of. How could it be interrupted? And they also wished that the vampire demigod would send a few more incarnations. Before the blood god came, Lin Shao and Lin Shu Shen Yuexin ordered the army to retreat, lest the battle of legendary level and above spread to their subordinates later. Compared with their expectations, the vampire Duke Alfonso recovered from the frenzy after the blood god he believed in answered prayers. When he saw that the situation was settled in just 10 minutes, he was stunned for several seconds on the spot. React. If he hadn't been a legendary vampire, he would have thought he had fallen into illusion. How could your city fall so quickly? What about my army? What about my hot army? For some reason, Alfonso felt a little bad, but he sensed the divine power emanating from the incarnation of the blood god that was about to descend in the twisted void above his head. The small incarnation in his heart quickly disappeared, and he became full of confidence again. In the distance, Lin Shao watched Alfonso's face change constantly. It was interesting, and he was a little envious. It's really enviable that a demigod has a legend-level fanatic. A legendary mad believer can provide a lot of power of faith. In theory, 100 legendary mad believers can enable a deity who has just been consecrated to maintain his level of godhood and not fall. According to the information obtained by Lin Shao, there are several vampire dukes in the vampire kingdom, dozens of marquis and earl-level nobles, plus a large number of believers at the extraordinary level. The quality of this vampire demigod believer is quite good, theoretically enough to support a true god. But after living for so long, this vampire demigod is only a demigod, not even a higher demigod. Well, Lin Shao is a little suspicious about this now. He suspects that this vampire demigod is not just an ordinary demigod, but he has no proof. But whether it is an ordinary demigod or a higher demigod, one thing is certain: it is not easy to confer a god. After all, if they are sure to ignite the divine fire and confer a god, no one will miss the opportunity. This vampire demigod has not been conferred a god after living for so long. It can only be said that he is not confident of conferring a god, or that the conditions are not enough to confer a god. I don't know what the vampire demigod is doing. The speed of its arrival is quite slow. Their subordinates are withdrawing from the city one after another. The incarnation of their divine power has not completely arrived, but they can clearly sense that the will of the demigod has indeed arrived, but it's just unreasonably slow. It seems that the vampire demigod is too far away from here to come quickly. Alfonso standing alone in the void feels a bit wrong. Why is the opponent not attacking? What are they waiting for? And Lin Shao didn't dare to go forward. They were afraid of scaring away the blood god incarnation, and the two sides froze. Fortunately, after waiting for so long, as a huge will appeared in this space, the distorted void above Alfonso's head separated, and a handsome young man with silver hair that made Lin Shao feel ashamed came out of it. The incarnation of the blood god finally came. Chapter 153 The Terrifying Field of Blood and Aging. The so-called incarnation is an incarnation of a strong demigod or above, with a little bit of divinity and a bit of consciousness as the core, and a large amount of divine power condensed. This refers to below demigods, and if it is the incarnation of a true god, it is different. Incarnation strength is related to divinity and divine power, and the incarnation will be as powerful as the amount of divine power it carries when condensing the incarnation. This vampire demigod doesn't seem to have a lot of divine power. Although the breath it emits is powerful, they don't feel much threat. But for Yu Shu in the distance, when the vampire demigod came, he felt as if his head had been hit by a big hammer, and he lost consciousness for more than 10 seconds. When he recovered, his face was as pale as paper and he was busy as soon as he put the binoculars away, he turned and ran. Lin Shao and the others are all divine creatures. They possess divine nature and can ignore the coercion of demigods, but Yu Shu is just an ordinary person, and in their eyes, he is a mortal. Any mortal who confronts a demigod face to face requires a round of will-saving throws. Obviously, he failed the will check, and directly shocked for more than 10 seconds. If you use the game parlance, it is equivalent to being unable to attack for more than 10 rounds and letting the opponent attack. As for the orcs under Yu Shu, it was even more unbearable. At the end of a round of will checks, they all fled in fear. This is just a demigod. If an incarnation of a true god descends, and one round of will checks fails, it will show different expressions depending on the true god's alignment and will. If the true god is an evil god, there is a high probability that instant death will be triggered, and the soul will be harvested by the incarnation of the evil god. If a non-evil god descends, there is a high probability that he will be forcibly changed his mind and will to become the opponent's mad believer. Of course, this is the worst case. It is only for mortals who are not determined. If they are professionals who are relatively determined, they will fall into a state of fear or shock like Yu Shu. After escaping a certain distance to a small hill, Yu Shu was about to take out a whistle to summon the orcs who were in chaos. Suddenly, the wrist wheel vibrated slightly. He clicked on the projection of a familiar middle-aged man and said to him, "Where are you?" Yu Shu replied, "I'm outside Alfonso City. The company has a new order. You leave Alfonso now and immediately go to the Redstone Mesa near the Eagle's Mouth Gorge at the junction of the Vampire Kingdom and the Human Kingdom. The company has built a camp there. By the way, don't pass through the city halfway," the middle-aged man reminded. Recently, the students from the Super Freshman Summer Camp are training on this plane. All vampire lords are their targets. It is estimated that they will attack the city directly. Don't go there to avoid being affected. Yu Shu looked at the huge cloud of blood covering the entire city that had just unfolded above the distant city, took out the jug and took a sip, and shrugged. There's no need to estimate. Someone is already attacking Alfonso. It took less than half an hour to invade the city. Now even the incarnation of the vampire demigod has arrived. The scale of the battle is the boss. And many more. The middle-aged man stretched out his hand and paused, then quickly asked, "You mean the vampire demigod descended into an incarnation?" "Yeah, is there a problem, Supervisor?" The middle-aged man known as the Supervisor showed a hint of joy on his face and said, "Then hurry back and find a way to get the demigod that constitutes the incarnation of the demigod." PFF'd. With a sip of soju, Yu Shu covered his mouth and rolled his eyes. "Director, Are you kidding me? Why should I take that bit of divinity? It's just my strength to grab it. The middle-aged man also realized this, and quickly explained. I'm not asking you to rob it. When they defeat the vampire demigods, you used to buy them some divinity in the name of the company. I will remind you what to say. Yu Shu was silent. To be honest, he refused this order, but he couldn't refuse. Once he refused, it would be difficult to get along in the future. Fortunately, it was just a message, no need for him to do anything, and the danger was not too big, so he nodded and said, I can go, but I'll have to wait until they're done fighting and it's safe to go. Okay, after completing this task, go back to upgrade the first level authority, and transfer you to a better and easier position. The supervisor made the following promise, and Yu Shu was satisfied. He stuffed the whistle into his mouth and blew it hard to summon the orcs. At the same time, not far from Alfonso City, Shen Yuexin and Lin Shu also appeared when the vampire demigod incarnation appeared. She stretched out her hand and grabbed it, and a whip flashing white lightning appeared in her hand. She swung the lightning-shaped whip and quickly extended hundreds of meters long, causing the void to crackle. She said softly, quickly decide, lest there be too many dreams at night. Lin Xiao withdrew his slightly weird gaze, and with a light drink, his figure rapidly soared, turning into a super-large Naga with a 30-meter-high human snake tail and a big Naga, but with golden scales and golden light. He reached out and grabbed a stick. A 40-meter-long golden spear appeared in his hand. This is the trophy from the snake demigod during the initial and final exams. It must be a good thing to be able to use a demigod as a weapon. He used divine power to remove the spiritual imprint left by the snake demigod. Now it is his weapon. And Lin Shu's weapon was a gorgeous golden bow. When he pulled the bowstring, a golden arrow purely composed of the power of faith slowly took shape. The power of his bow completely depends on the amount of faith power consumed by the condensed arrows, and the more power invested is naturally greater. The three showed their weapons, and Lin Xiao knew that it was time for him to get on. He stomped in the void, and a circle of ripples exploded out of thin air. He turned into a golden light and rushed towards the blood field where the vampire demigod incarnation unfolded. It's a coincidence that the vampire demigod also has the blood domain, but it is stronger than the blood domain of the snake man. He can feel that there is an aging rule attached to the blood domain. If a mortal enters this blood domain, not only will the blood in his body boil or be forcibly drawn out, but he will also become weak under the influence of the aging rules. The law of aging does not mean that it really makes you old. Getting old involves the law of the highest time. The meaning of aging is to produce a debilitated state similar to the aging of life. And the blood field is not just about making your blood boil or forcibly drawing out the target blood. This is just the most commonly used and most powerful manifestation of the blood rule. The complete blood rule refers to the control of blood. The most terrifying thing for ordinary people is naturally all blood was forcibly drawn, or the blood boiled as if it had been boiled. This is how the blood rules are used, and the control from the rule level cannot be resisted by mortals at all. This is the gap between gods and mortals like a moat. Gods can only be confronted by the same gods. Although Lin Xiao and the others are not demigods and have no priesthood, their powerful divinity and the power of faith can offset the influence of the rules. Of course, legendary powerhouses who are new to the rules level can also forcibly resist the influence of the domain rules in a short period of time. It is worth mentioning that legendary arms and legendary powerhouses are actually two different things. Legendary arms refer to the level of arms, the 6th order 7th order extraordinary arms, and the 8th and 9th order legendary arms, which means that the arms of this level are very, very powerful like legends. The legendary powerhouse refers to a mortal who has begun to master the power of the rules and has legendary characteristics similar to divinity. There is not much difference in ability, the biggest difference lies in the mastery of the rules. For example, the strength of both the legendary arms and the legendary powerhouse has reached 100. A full blow can deal a blow equivalent to 50 points of strength on an enemy with a physique of 50, but the legendary powerhouse has mastered the rules, and with the help of the rules the power can deal 50 times the damage, or use the power of the rules to ignore the enemy's defense and cause full damage. Or to put it another way, Even a weak divine power with a godhead level of only 0 can instantly kill a legendary creature of the 8th or even 9th order with the supernatural power of life and death, but cannot kill an 8th order legendary creature who has mastered the rules. Of course, this refers to the vast majority of situations, and does not include some abnormal legendary arms, such as the giant dragon, a supermodel arm with innate talent and abnormality, which cannot be measured by common sense. In addition, if the arms can be promoted to the 10th order, there is no so-called distinction between ordinary arms and legendary powerhouses. Creatures that reach this level will definitely have extraordinary characteristics comparable to the legendary rules, which are outrageously strong. And this legendary vampire duke named Alfonso actually refers to a legendary creature, not a real legendary powerhouse who masters the rules. In order to distinguish, the legendary powerhouses who have mastered the rules are generally called true legends, or legendary powerhouses, named after the powerhouses. But this is only for people from the main world. Many indigenous planes call some powerful species that have reached the 8th order by virtue of their bloodline talent as legends, and the division is quite messy. But they knew that these legendary vampire dukes who had reached the 8th rank by virtue of their bloodlines were not real legends. Boom! Lin Xiao rushed into the field of blood like a cannonball. The protective power collided with the power of the field, and the terrifying impact exploded, and the blood field covering the entire city was torn off a large piece. The pure gold spear in his hand stabbed violently, and the golden transparent flame wrapped around the pure gold spear to form a triangular inverted cone at the tip of the spear. Like a hot knife cutting butter, the viscous blood was easily torn apart, and a huge golden figure was straight insert into the vast realm of blood. At the same time, Shen Yuexin, who had already flown to the edge of the blood domain, lifted the forbidden whip and threw it out violently, and the blazing lightning whip body suddenly soared and extended infinitely, turning into a thicker than human lightning whip column and slammed into the blood domain. Inside, the lightning whip suddenly lit up and exploded countless tiny lightnings that spread in all directions, and the power of lightning purification instantly purifies the blood field within the coverage of the tiny lightning. Compared to her powerful whip, Lin Xiao's moves were very low-key, so low-key that he didn't even shoot. From the very beginning, he was accumulating power. A golden arrow was drawn on the bow, but it was slow to shoot. As time passed, the golden arrow became brighter and brighter, and the void around the arrow was slightly distorted. Although he hasn't shot, everyone knows that his blow is no small matter. As the saying goes, the unloaded bullet is the most deadly. Even the incarnation of a vampire demigod must devote a certain amount of energy to guard against his charged arrow. This blood field is quite large. Lin Xiao rushed into the field for nearly 1,000 meters in one breath. Only then did he feel the evil will of the vampire demigod blast into his sea of divine, and then the endless blood in the surrounding blood field suddenly twisted and quickly condensed into 100 meters. Big hand patted it. Boom! A huge human snake-tailed figure fell from the sky and smashed into the city and collapsed several buildings. Then, 4 of the fingers of the bloody hand broke off and flew down, transforming into 4 thick blood chains in midair, covering Lin Xiao's real body, one left and one deep. Deeply inserted into the ground to restrain him, the last finger was disconnected, and the fingertips in midair quickly became extremely sharp. In the ruins, Lin Xiao recovered from being in a trance by the impact of the powerful spiritual sense incarnated by the vampire demigod. Feeling the blood chains that bound him, he burst into divine power without hesitation. The power of belief of more than 1 million units exploded, and the dazzling golden light burst quickly. The blood chain is submerged in the body. At the same time, Shen Yuexin threw the forbidden whip out of her hand, and the whip made of lightning quickly stretched for thousands of meters, and the sharp fingertips that fell from the sky shattered into pieces. Senescence. A low and evil voice sounded out of thin air in Lin Xiao's mind, and the 4 blood chains that bound him flourished, which in turn suppressed the golden light that erupted from him. At the same time, a powerful invisible force penetrated into the body along the blood chains. I felt a lot weaker in an instant. Blood. The 4 blood chains quickly tightened, and a not very strong but irresistible attraction emerged out of thin air. He felt his divine blood and divine power flow out through his flesh and skin involuntarily. Friend, a book, Boxing Martial Arts. Title of the book: The Martial Arts God of Boxing. Introduction. HMPH, there is no one who can fight. Chapter 154. This is the power of priesthood and domain. The priesthood is the embodiment of the rules, and the domain is the extension of the power of the rules. Use the priesthood to master the rules and show its powerful power in the form of the domain. Also, this is just an incarnation of a demigod, not a powerful incarnation. The power of the domain is limited. If a true god takes action in person, Lin Shao, even a divine creature, can't handle the power of the domain, and all the gods will be removed on the spot. Blood becomes a mummified corpse. Therefore, when Lin Shao burst out with more than 5 million beliefs in one breath, the powerful divine power instantly exploded the blood field that acted on him, and his body flashed out from the waves of blood. At the same time, Shen Yuexin threw the forbidden whip out of his hand again, and the lightning whip body rapidly expanded into a thick lightning bolt that shook straight and slammed into the sea of blood under the impetus of the power of faith. Into nothingness, directly piercing the blood domain through a huge hole that penetrates the depths of the domain. The quality of the forbidden whip in her hand definitely reached the level of a semi-artifact, and it was still an excellent semi-artifact at the same level, otherwise it would not be so powerful that it could easily tear through the blood field. You must know that Lin Shao broke out with more than 5 million faith power just to get out, and if she threw out the whip at will, the consumed faith power may be about 1 million and can easily collapse a large area. It feels like a red-hot iron rod is easily inserted into the solidified butter, and the explosive power is much stronger than Lin Shao. Compared with the weapon in her hand, the big golden spear in Lin Shao's hand is not even a semi-artifact. According to normal development, it is estimated that it has been cultivated for hundreds of years until he becomes a demigod, and it is possible to cultivate this big spear into a demigod. Thinking about the fact that someone had a powerful demigod so long ago, and he used it from someone else, this gap. Sure enough, she's a low-key little rich woman, I love her. Soon Lin Shao found that he had changed from the main attack to the soy sauce. The full state of the demigod's combat power was much more terrifying than he imagined. Just one incarnation, the pressure on them was far more terrifying than the snake demigod at the beginning. The combined strength of the three of them was more than 10 times stronger than the trio in the initial final exam, but they could only compete with an incarnation of a vampire demigod. This shows how badly the snake man demigod was weakened at the beginning, burning a few points of divinity, running out of divine power, killing all the believers, and almost destroying them when they were almost exhausted. Fortunately, the divine power brought by this demigod incarnation is insufficient. If the divine power is sufficient, he may not be able to burst out with divine power just now. Shen Yuexin was the main attack, and every time she swiped the whip of forbidden break, it would turn into thick pillars of lightning that smashed down horizontally. Lin Shu has been pulling his bow from a distance to aim at the blood field, but he doesn't shoot. At first, Lin Shao was still around the edge of the blood field and wanted to wait for the opportunity to attack, but the demigod avatar had been hiding in the blood field and could not come out. What surprised him most was that the legendary vampire Alfonso was nowhere to be seen. After all, it is an 8th order legendary level combat power. Although it is not a real legendary powerhouse, it is not weak, but it is already qualified to participate in the battle of their level. Not to mention anything else, at least it will not be a problem to hold them back for a short time. But in fact, since the advent of the incarnation of the vampire demigod, Alfonso has been included in the blood domain and disappeared, and has not appeared until now. Moreover, the vampire demigod incarnation, in addition to suppressing Lin Shao who rushed into the blood realm with a series of methods, did not deal with Shen Yuexin and Lin Shu who were outside the realm, and seemed to have been on the defensive. This is not right. Why doesn't he come out? What is he doing? An abnormality is a monster, and the unknown is scary. The abnormal performance of the enemy made them alert. Lin Shao shouted loudly to the two teammates. I think it's going to happen if you drag it on. On the other side, Shen Yuexin, who threw out 20 or 30 whips in one breath and burned out a large area of blood without seeing the other side, nodded vigorously and said, I also don't feel right. There are many night dreams, let's make a big move. After speaking, Shen Yuexin's voice came from Lin Shao's ears. You first shoot to blast open an area, and then I will relay a passage to find the target. Lin Shu's final blow is fatal. Lin Shao immediately understood what she meant, nodded, the golden glazed flames burned in his pupils. He held the golden spear in his right hand and lifted it up, and with a thought, 30 million faith points began to burn. According to the calculation that 1 million faith power can be converted into 1 point of divine power, 30 million faith power can be converted into 30 points of divine power, which is equivalent to the explosion of 30 units of divine power. The space around the golden spear begins to distort and exudes amazing attraction. It was as though air and even light were being sucked into the gun body. If a mortal is here, they will find that there is no golden spear in his hand, but a distortion that absorbs even his sight. As he threw it sharply in front of him, a void twisted and vanished in a flash. Boom! The edge of the blood field covering the entire city exploded violently, and an invisible golden wave of tidal waves advanced layer by layer to destroy the large blood field. At the same time, the color of the forbidden whip in Shen Yuexin's hand suddenly changed, from blue and white lightning to a purple lightning whip column. As she threw off the whip, the purple lightning whip suddenly threw 1,000 or 2 kilometers away and slammed into him. In the blasted blood field, a hole with a diameter of more than 10 meters and a length of nearly 2 kilometers was blasted out, until an indescribable evil figure formed of viscous blood blocked the whip of purple lightning. Lin Xiao, who had been paying attention to all this, was surprised when his pupils shrunk. He found that the evil figure in the center of the blood domain turned out to be the vampire Duke Alfonso. No, to be precise, the flesh of the legendary vampire Alfonso has been occupied by the will of the vampire demigod, and the real legendary vampire has died. No wonder he never showed up, it turned out to be the case. Occupying the flesh of a mad believer's legendary vampire, at this time, the incarnation of the vampire demigod has a basis from the previous rootless tree, and can use the legendary vampire's body to withstand greater damage and use more powerful means. The existence time will also be longer, and the ability to exist forever will not collapse like the previous incarnation if the divine power is exhausted. In the past, it was just an incarnation of divine power, based on that little bit of divinity and will. Once someone breached the domain, it would directly hit the core of the incarnation and destroy the incarnation. Now that there is a physical body, even if the blood field is broken, the enemy must kill the physical body first before hurting the core. A series of changes are amazing, but at this time, the arrow is already on the string, and it has to be sent. Lin Shu decisively seized the fleeting opportunity and fired an arrow early. I couldn't see it, the trace I only felt in the induction passed through the orbit blasted by Shen Yuexin, and the vampire duke who closed his eyes in the next second. No, it should be a vampire demigod who opened his eyes suddenly and the space was steep. As soon as it lit up, a dark golden blood vortex appeared out of thin air, and the trajectory hit the center of the vortex like a mud cow entering the sea. But after a second, the blood god incarnation was shocked, and an invisible twisted wave exploded in a halo, spreading in all directions like lightning. Then, this huge blood domain collapsed layer by layer, and the condensed blood sea collapsed into countless fragments that melted, faded, and disappeared. Then, the world was clear and bright, revealing 4 figures standing in the air. He is injured. The legendary vampire had a bloodless hole in his chest. It was the fatal damage caused by Lin Shu's energy and an arrow. It was also this blow. Although he failed to kill the vampire demigod incarnation, it caused huge damage to him. As a result, even the field cannot be maintained. It's a pity that the other party has a legendary body. Without this body, Lin Shu's arrow can definitely kill this blood god incarnation. But the difference is not big. After all, it is just an incarnation of little divine power. Even if he has a new body, even if he blocks the arrow, it is useless. The difference is that he lives for a while. What was surprising, however, was that the vampire demigod avatar gave them an indifferent look after the domain collapsed, and suddenly rose into the sky and ran away in the eyes of many believers in the city. This is very surprising. You must know that running away from the eyes of so many believers will cause a huge blow to the believers' beliefs, and even a large number of believers may break away and no longer believe. However, although his reaction was surprising, they were well prepared. With a flick of the forbidden whip in Shen Yuexin's hand, it quickly extended thousands of meters, and a thick purple lightning bolt smashed straight into the void somewhere. Boom! A circle of lightning exploded, and the incarnation of the vampire demigod who disappeared into the sky was forcibly blasted out in the void of more than 1,000 meters. At the same time, Lin Shao also rose into the sky, burning a full 20 million of the power of faith again. Golden flames spurted out, the golden spear in his hand twisted again, and pointed at the vampire demigod who appeared 1,000 meters away. The salted fish stabs. The huge big Naga real body disappeared in a flash. For the first time, the incarnation of the vampire demigod who was forcibly blasted out of his body from a distance of 1,000 meters showed a shocked expression. He raised his claws with both hands and pressed it, and the large void in front of him twisted into a huge blood-colored vortex. At the moment when the blood color was twisted and formed, a golden spear entwined with golden flames was twisted out of thin air. After the momentary stalemate, the tip of the spear pierced the twisted vortex with difficulty, and slowly stabbed the vampire demigod incarnation behind the vortex. At the same time, a dazzling golden light flew out from Lin Shu and shot straight into the sky, turned a big bend and landed from the sky, hitting the vampire demigod incarnation's forehead. Boom! The twisting vortex instantly collapsed, and the big golden spear hit the face of the vampire demigod incarnation without any hindrance, blowing its head into pieces with one blow. A bit of golden light with a tempting touch flew out from the broken head and hung motionless in the air. Lin Shao flew over and reached out and grabbed it into his hand, and then the golden light began to jump vigorously to escape. Chapter 155 Divide the Spoils. This is the bit of divinity that constitutes the incarnation of the vampire demigod. The consequence of merging with the physical body is to be bound by the physical body. Once the physical body is destroyed, there will be a certain period of discomfort. During this period, it is easy to be caught and the incarnation collapses. In other words, this incarnation of the vampire demigod just hangs up. That is to say, there is no communication, unlike the nonsense of the villains in the novel, and the fight starts after it arrives. There was no earth-shattering battle. Except for the fact that Lin Shao suffered a little loss in the tentative fight at the beginning, the latter three were very real and easily killed the blood god incarnate. After all, it's not a novel or a movie, there aren't that many lines, they've all hit here, how can there be so much nonsense? Let's talk about it. It will not be obviously stronger than the opponent, and it will take a long time to get rid of it forcibly. This reminds Lin Shao of the classic character Captain America in a movie in his last life. He is obviously immortal, and he can fight with everyone. Of course, it goes without saying that it was just an incarnation of a demigod, and there was not much divine power cast, so there was no way to stop them. Moreover, one thing can be confirmed from this battle, this vampire demigod is indeed an ordinary demigod and not a high-level demigod. The incarnation of a high demigod and an incarnation of an ordinary demigod have more than a star and a half in combat strength. Let's put it this way. A standardized incarnation of a high demigod can directly suppress a normal demigod who has just been promoted, just like the sea god only dispatched during the final exam. With an incarnation, it was a lose-lose with the snake demigod. Poseidon may have the home field advantage of ocean, but the snake demigod is not just promoted. Reach out and put away the broken legendary vampire corpse. This thing has been contaminated with divinity, and the corpse is more valuable than the ordinary 8th order legendary creature corpse. Holding the legendary vampire corpse in the direction of the city, Lin Shao raised his gun and shouted, "Attack!" Witnessing the beheading of the evil gods by the gods he believed in, Slarda, who had a high morale, roared and rushed up first, followed by Lin Shu and Shen Yuexin's family, and started the final siege. A few kilometers away from the city, Yu Shu witnessed a tense, short and exciting battle of gods. Envy. His half-orcs are even more unbearable, hiding behind the hills and not daring to raise their heads. It was not until the incarnation of the blood god fell that he breathed a sigh of relief, pulled at the loose collar of his robe and let out a sigh of relief, sending the latest news to the supervisor. The supervisor was overjoyed after hearing the incarnation of the blood god, and hurriedly urged, "Come and find them. I have just issued an order from the company. I am willing to pay 3 divine cards in exchange for this divine from the blood god." I wipe. Yu Shu was surprised and asked subconsciously, "Why is this? What is the operation of exchanging 3 divine cards for a bit of divine nature? Does this come from the divine nature of the blood god? Is there any secret?" The supervisor glared at him and scolded, "Don't worry about it so much, do as you order." Yu Shu shrugged. turned to greet the half-orc who had recovered from the pressure of the gods, and asked casually. In other words, our actions in this plane are not very legal. These elite students have big bosses behind them. Is it appropriate for us to contact him? The supervisor seemed to be busy with something. After listening to his words, he paused and replied indifferently. If we don't say it out, who knows whether our actions are legal? They just came to this plane temporarily to experience it, and they have no conflict with us. Before our actions are exposed, we are the legal citizens of the Human Federation. Yu Shu laughed when he heard this. Yes, I am now a federally registered legal adventurer in Outland, and it is perfectly normal to do some transactions with them. Alfonso, the war is coming to an end. After the incarnation of the blood god fell, the battle situation was basically settled. The believers in the city did not care about the scene where the blood god incarnate escaped. They only saw the scene where the blood god they believed in was killed by the evil god, and their morale plummeted. With the support of the 3 magic towers, the remaining defenders in the city immediately began to fight. Breakout. At the same time, the remaining mage group took a small number of elites and fled to the castle when the defenders broke through to attract the attention of the enemy, found several descendants of the vampire Duke Alfonso, and used the teleportation circle to teleport all the remaining elites away in one go. Lin Xiao found the spatial fluctuation of the activation of the teleportation circle, but did not stop it. First, he was discussing with Lin Shu and Shen Yuexin how to share this divine nature and other spoils, and he didn't pay attention for a while. In addition, only a small number of elites escaped, and the main force has all been trapped in the city. Their goal is to destroy the main belief in the blood god, and it doesn't matter if a small amount is chased or not. Divinity is only one point, but it is divided into 3 people, which is not easy to handle. This kind of good things naturally want all, but just a little. The 3 were silent for a long time, and finally Lin Xiao said. It's just a little bit of divinity, and it definitely cannot be disassembled. Let's just give up this bit of divinity and replace it with other loot. How about this legendary vampire corpse? Just like what he said, the divinity cannot be separated at all, and there must be some people who give up. For example, the corpse of this legendary vampire, and the 3 magic towers. Lin Xiao is very interested in that. Later, I will dismantle the 3 magic towers and move them into my own domain, so that the intelligent goblins can study them and see if they can restore the technology of the magic towers. Although this thing has a very long cooling time, it has great power. Generally, the 6th order extraordinary level of arms can be killed in seconds. Putting a bunch of them in God's domain can greatly increase the defense strength of God's domain. In the future, if you encounter an invasion event, God's domain has great defense capability. Increase. He gave up here. Lin Shu glanced at Shen Yuexin, and was about to give up generously, but she waved her hand and said first. Then I don't want it anymore, let's change it. An unremarkable look. Lin Shu was stunned for a moment, and suddenly looked at Lin Xiao and Shen Yuexin with strange eyes, and suddenly felt that this bit of divinity in his hand was not so fragrant. After distributing the divine and legendary vampire corpses, they began to distribute other loot, including the huge Alfonso city. Such a large city was captured, and there were a lot of resources in it. Because Lin Shu was assigned that bit of divinity, he was unable to participate in the distribution of other spoils. Everything in such a large city belonged to him and Shen Yuexin. Yes, everything, the whole city. It is rare to have the opportunity to encounter a big city with a civilized plane. Of course, it must be plundered. For new students like them who want nothing in the realm of the gods, even a pile of stones has its value. Of course, this is just a talk. It's not that the entire city has been demolished and the stones are moved into the god's domain, it's just a description. After all, the city is too big, and it can't be fully loaded even if it's demolished. God's domain is limited and can't load too many foreign things in one go. After discussing how to divide the spoils, the next step is to wait for the subordinates to completely break through the city. The 3 stood directly on the top of the magic tower in the center of the city overlooking the urban battlefield. As the mage group left, the 3 magic towers were also misfired. Now they stay here and no one pays attention to them. A group of big Naga guarded around the magic tower. Lin Xiao led a group of intelligent goblins enter one of the magic towers to search. In the other magic tower next door, many wingmen from Shen Yuexin were searching. All the things that were collected were moved to the square next to the magic tower and placed in different categories. After saving more, open the gate of God's domain and move in. When the square was full of things, including several piles of various things moved out of the magic tower, including a small pile of books, Lin Xiao picked up a book with great interest. The so-called books in this plane are actually long scrolls, such as sheepskin scrolls, cowhide scrolls, or various animal skin scrolls. A large amount of text is recorded on these scrolls. If the content is too long, it will be divided into volumes. A cursory look at these scrolls shows that there are indeed some valuable goodies, including a complete set of basic scrolls for the extraordinary profession of blood mage. It is a pity that it is not complete. There are only 3 basic levels of disciplines. It is only for learning to advance to the 3rd level of blood mage. There is no follow-up. It is estimated that the blood mage group took all the important scrolls away when they escaped. Here comes. It can't be said that it is completely worthless. It is quite valuable to some God's domain players who have a vampire family, but the value is also limited. And even if it really is a complete blood mage professional system, it is useless to him. He has no vampires under him. This extraordinary profession cannot be used at all, and can only be exchanged with others. It was from the 3 magic towers and a lot of interesting things looted from the Duke's castle that made him interested. Lin Xiao squatted next to the pile of loot that was specially stored in the castle and studied. In a box padded with a luxurious soft cloth, he found 3 khaki yellow unknown beast eggs. For the time being, he didn't know which beast eggs were put away first, and waited to return to God's domain to try to hatch them. Then he found a scroll with delicate patterns on the surface bound by a silver ribbon. Lin Xiao felt a magic trap on the scroll, and when he thought about it, he tried to stimulate a bit of divine power to hit the magic trap, and then there was a crack sound. Sparks erupted on the reels, and the reels caught fire. PFF'd. Looking back, she saw Shen Yuexin covered her mouth and chuckled, stretched out her hand and grabbed the burnt scroll, which was turned into ashes and dissipated. Lin Xiao shrugged awkwardly, and was about to speak, when she suddenly sensed something and turned her head to see his dependent Slarda. He swam over, knelt down in front of him reverently and said, "Great Creator, a human has brought you a very important message." Humanity. Lin Xiao raised his eyelids and saw Yu Shu, who was standing not far away. Sensing the sharp eyes that slashed across his body like a knife, Yu Shu hurriedly stretched out his hand and shouted, "Your Excellency, I am an adventurer from the main world." Adventurers in the main world. Lin Xiao was quite surprised and waved his hand for him to come over. Now that he is an adventurer in the main world, whether Lin Xiao or Lin Shu, Shen Yuexin, etc., have different attitudes and face the aborigines. The concept of equality for everyone in the civilization of the main world is deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Although the actual status must be high and low, at least everyone is equal on the surface, even if it is a true God-level powerhouse and a civilian who is powerless. At some level all are equal and can have equal dialogue. But de jure equality is one thing, and actual experience is another. Just like a worker bowing his head when facing a boss, the same is true for ordinary mortals in the main world when facing a god player. Chapter 156 Defects. What's the matter with you? The concept of equality between 2 generations still affects Lin Xiao. At least at this stage, in his eyes, ordinary people are the same as themselves. They are not like some senior players of God's domain, especially those who have lived in Outland for thousands of years. He and ordinary people are already 2 kinds of people, and the tone is still kind. Yu Shu was a little flattered. He lowered his head subconsciously and said sincerely, "I am a contracted adventurer of Yumming Trading Company, Limited, and I have been active in different planes of this void all year round. Today, I am assigned by the company's administrative director in this void to make a deal with you in the name of the company." Trade. Lin Xiao didn't think too much, and asked casually, "What do you want to trade?" He already had a prediction in his mind. If he guessed correctly, they should have come for some resources in the city of Alfonso that was about to be captured. This situation is very common. Many companies like to follow the military expeditionary force. Once a city or a plane is captured, a large group of companies will come and be willing to acquire these messy resources. The expeditionary army is also very happy. The big head has been eaten, and the remaining value is not large, but many have a tasteless feeling, and it is naturally the best for someone to buy it. This kind of company is usually called a trading company or a commercial company. In his mind, the name of Yu Shu is probably this. However, Yu Shu's answer surprised him. He showed the wrist wheel to open it, and the projection of the middle-aged supervisor popped up. The middle-aged man bowed gracefully and said in a deep voice, "I'm the executive director of Yuming Trading Company, Limited in this Broken Plane Group. You can call me Zhang Feng. I saw 3 young elites kill the incarnation of the vampire demigod through my subordinates just now. It's really young. It works." His tone was very sincere, and he was very happy to hear it, and Lin Xiao was no exception. The corners of his mouth involuntarily curved slightly, and said, "Director Zhang is very polite." Although he was happy, he didn't lose his position and didn't take the initiative to ask the other party's purpose, which would lose the initiative in the negotiation. However, Zhang Feng did not seem to have any concerns in this regard, and took the initiative to say with a sincere smile, "It's like this, our company has a god realm player with the blood priesthood. This vampire demigod divinity is very useful to him. That your excellency told us early on that if there is a vampire demigod divinity, he is willing to use to some other divinities in exchange." Yu Shu was expressionless beside him, but his heart was sullen. The old guy is cunning. He was willing to show 3 points of divinity, but now there are only 2 points. However, this is normal in business negotiations. No one will show their cards at the beginning. If the other party agrees, it will only be exchanged for 2 points. When Lin Xiao first heard it, he was a little moved, changing 1 point for 2 points, such a good thing. If this divinity is his, there is no hesitation. Unfortunately, this divinity is now in Lin Shu's hands. He glanced back at Lin Shu. He also heard what he said just now, and said to Zhang Feng in silence for a while, "This divinity was won by the 3 of us together, and we need to discuss it." "It's natural." Zhang Feng had a smile on his face, and he was sure in his heart that it was all right. 2 points for a bit of divinity. He didn't think these 3 freshmen with little experience would refuse. In fact, they really won't refuse. Before the discussion, both Lin Xiao and Lin Shu have already approved this exchange plan, but just like what they said just now, the thing was indeed shot down by the 3 of them. Before disposing of it, you must ask your teammates first. Opinions, even if they are pretending, are respectful. Lin Xiao rubbed his hands with a smile and said, "I didn't think there was such a good thing. 1 point is 2 points, and it's a big profit." Lin Shu also nodded and said, 1 o'clock is 2 o'clock, we can share a little more, yes. The 2 looked at Shen Yuexin. She had made a delicate hair accessory and hung it on her hair, forming a hazy mist that covered her face like a face towel, revealing only a pair of eyes like stars. She turned her head to look not far away. Yu Shu looked around curiously and said, "Don't you think it's not normal to exchange 2 points of divinity for 1 point of divinity?" Lin Xiao smiled and said, "Of course I know it's not normal, but it has nothing to do with us." Lin Shu also nodded and said, "This comes from the vampire demigod's divinity that there must be some secrets that we don't know, but we are just passers-by on this plane, and we don't have so much time to study these things. We will talk about the benefits first." The 2 of them said this in unison, and the little ant rolled her eyes silently. She was so pretty, and Lin Xiao suddenly moved in her heart and said, "If the little ant is not reconciled, then this is the case. Let's try to say that we need 3 points of divinity to see if he agrees. If he agrees, just a little bit for each person." I don't know if it was an illusion or not, when he said about the little ant, he felt her eyebrows raised. Shen Yuexin pretended not to care and said, "I'm just talking casually, try it if you want." Proud, Lin Xiao gave her a new label in her heart, and was about to speak to Lin Shu, but when he saw a strange expression on his face, he stretched out his hand with golden light between his fingers in front of Lin Xiao and said, "I think I know why they made such a deal. They will need 3 points of divinity in exchange for it, and they can't be less at all." Lin Xiao looked up at his expression, and nodded vaguely. "Okay, I'll try." Looking at his expression, he seemed to know something. Reaching out to take this bit of divinity, suddenly my heart moved, and my will penetrated into this bit of divinity. I felt like I was caught in a sea of blood, and an extremely large evil will was projected in the center of the blood sea, and then. After that, Lin Xiao's will withdrew instantly. That incomparably huge evil will is the will of the vampire demigod. If a normal God Realm player wants to refine a bit of divinity, he needs to use his own will to slowly obliterate that will in order to safely integrate the divinity. This is also the main reason why many descendants of true gods clearly have sufficient resources, including super rare treasures like divinity, but they do not have much divinity themselves. There is a lot of divinity, but what if you can only eat so much in one breath? You can't eat too much. All of Lin Xiao's previous divinity was directly obliterated by the creation of the Rubik's Cube, and he himself had never had such an experience. It's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing in a way. Although it is fast to use the magic cube to directly destroy the will in the divine nature, his own will does not have these tempering, and his will strength is not comparable to other players in the realm of the gods. This will strength simply refers to the strength of the will, not the kind of xingxing. To use a simple analogy, the willpower of ordinary people is about 1 point, and the willpower of legendary powerhouses is about 100 points, which is what it means. The strength of will is very important. Otherwise, when you will be conferred a god in the future, your will is not strong enough, then the result. No, Lin Xiao suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He seems to be relying too much on the creation of the Rubik's Cube now, instead of ignoring his own strength. It doesn't mean that it is not used or restricted. The Rubik's Cube is the golden finger of his own rise. If there is a hole in his brain, he will not use or restrict it. It's just that you can't ignore yourself like before. Your own strength is equally important. Only with your own strength and the help of the magic cube will you go further. Both are very important and are indispensable. He suddenly understood. It's a good thing to wake up early now, but if it continues like this, it will be troublesome in the future. At this time, Lin Xiao was thinking about this, but Lin Shu didn't pay any attention to the transaction with that Yumming trading company. Lin Shu didn't wake up from his contemplation until he really got 3 points of divinity after the transaction with the other party. Lin Shu beckoned to ask him to divide things, but Shen Yuexin suddenly stretched out her slender and fair index finger and put it on her lips. Don't bother him. Lin Shu also found his abnormality and said strangely. He is this. It should be that he suddenly realized something. Don't disturb him, let him think about it quietly. I don't know how long it has been in this state of not feeling time connected. Anyway, when he regained his senses, the battle was already over. He looked up at the sky for a long time, and suddenly let out a long breath. After thinking about it for so long, he reconsidered his growth plan for the next semester. Maybe next semester, he would have to calm down and manage the divine realm properly, cultivate his family members, cultivate the fields, and digest the many benefits obtained in the summer camp this time. Keeping this decision in his heart, Lin Xiao exhaled again, his eyes changed from confusion to clear, and greeted the two not far away. Sorry to keep you waiting. Shen Yuexin, who was not far away, glanced at him with her beautiful eyes. I wonder if it was an illusion. She felt that this young man seemed to be a little more mature at this time, and she was quite curious about what he had experienced just now. Chapter 157 News from the Tomb of God. This kind of thing, definitely can't tell them clearly. Lin Xiao only said that he had an occasional feeling just now, but he didn't say what he had. They didn't like to get to the bottom of things either. They didn't continue to ask. Lin Shu just handed over a bit of divinity and asked, "Did you sense anything just now?" Lin Xiao nodded. I found that the current state of the vampire demigod is a little wrong. It's very strange. I can't tell what it is like. Lin Shu smiled slightly and said, if you guessed correctly, the vampire demigod is not on this plane at all. Quote? Not on this plane. Yes, not in this plane. I just quietly used my will to test the divinity, and found that its body is very far away from here, and I also found a coordinate from the residual vampire demigod will. Lin Xiao immediately became interested and asked, do you know where the coordinates are and what are the coordinates? The corner of Lin Shu's mouth grinned with a strange expression, and said 2 words softly. Holy grave, yes, the coordinates of a god's tomb, and the real body of the vampire demigod has entered the god's tomb. Lin Xiao instantly understood why the trading company named Yumming just now was willing to spend 3 points of divinity in exchange for this bit of divinity. If a company has a master with a blood priesthood, it is pure bullshit. The main purpose is probably this coordinate. He looked up and saw that Lin Shu was also interested, then looked at Shen Yuexin. She shrugged and said, "I'm also very interested." Ha ha ha. The three of them laughed, and Lin Xiao rubbed his hands together and said, "It can't be too late, hurry up to clean up the battlefield and prepare to go." Compared with the Tomb of the Gods, the spoils of war in Alfonso City are not very attractive. The Tomb of the Gods, only the cemetery of the fallen true gods is qualified to be called the Tomb of the Gods, and the land of the fallen demigods is not qualified to be called that. Of course, when a true god falls, it will fall into the star realm, and the corpses will turn into floating islands floating in the star realm. Generally, there will be no god corpses on the material plane, buried with the real body of the god. And the residual will or soul of a true god is quite terrifying, and even if a demigod enters the cemetery of some powerful true gods, there is a risk of falling. But as the saying goes, wealth is sought in danger. The things buried in a cemetery of a true god are all good things for them. The level of a true god is more than one level higher than their current level. Treasures used by a true god are once again the good things they dream of. Searching for a god's tomb is like killing a demigod. The harvest is even greater. I dare not say that I will definitely get the best treasures in the Tomb of the Gods. As long as I can get a small part of the good things beyond the current level, I will make a lot of money. The most important thing is that the real tombs of the gods usually have god guards. This is not their nominal god guard, but the real god guard, which literally means a guard with divinity. Yes, the shrine guards at the core of the true gods are all divine creatures, and some powerful true god guards still have demigods. Only such divine guards can bear the divine power that the true gods radiate all the time near the shrine. Radiation, and only such a divine guard can face the attack of a true god-level enemy. The corrosive power of these guards will gradually decline after thousands of years, and the difficulty of killing them will be greatly reduced. Each kill is a bit of divinity. The three discussed it well, and they were not even interested in the exchange competition. They quickly asked their subordinates to search for valuable things in the city and prepare to leave. Anyway, they destroyed Alfonso City, and even killed a vampire demigod incarnation, and they have completed their mission. They have to help other people on their normal schedule, but they can also take the opportunity to hang out and get some extra benefits, which are all allowed by the rules. Moreover, if the vampire demigod is really in the Tomb of the Gods, the final link of the exchange match is to kill the vampire demigod. When all the resistance in the city was smashed, they were not interested in taking a slow count as originally planned, but let the family members move all the things they looted into the realm of the gods. Basically metal products, loot weapons, household metal items, book scrolls, copper coins, silver coins, gold coins, all kinds of jewelry, etc. The house has not been demolished. This idea is useless. Of course, the 3 magic towers and the vampire duke's castle were still demolished, one for each of the 3. In addition, they initially restored the general structure of the tower by using the scrolls left in the tower and the appearance of the groping magic tower itself. When the intelligent goblins develop in the future, you can try to study these and copy the exact same magic tower yourself. Don't worry about this, anyway, don't expect to come in handy during the summer camp, there is a lot of time for them to research and develop. 3 hours later, the 3 family members all returned to God's domain, and the 3 of them went back on the road. Lin Shu marked the coordinates on the map, and he and Shen Yuexin downloaded a copy. Judging from the big map, the coordinates are not within the scope of the vampire kingdom, nor the human kingdom, but at the junction of the human kingdom and the vampire kingdom. The map is marked as a place called Yingzui Gorge on the Redstone Terrace. The 3 of them looked at this place and looked at each other, and they could see the solemnity in each other's eyes. Because this place is at the junction of 2 kingdoms, the center of the plain, but it does not mean safety. The Redstone Mesa is called the Redstone Mesa because the exposed stone land in this area is crimson red, exactly the same as the barren land on the edge of the broken plain. The reason for this is because this plain fragment has suffered a severe blow, the space in that area is full of cracks, and void energy seeps out of these cracks, forming a terrible void storm in that area. Although it is not as terrifying as the real void storm outside the plane, it is not something that mortals in the plane can stop. Therefore, that piece of redstone platform is clearly in the center of the plane, but it is like a Jedi. There is almost no life in that area, and occasionally, it can withstand the power of the void storm and not die. It must be an extremely terrifying existence. The actual location of the god's tomb is in a certain half-plane behind a space crack. There are space cracks in the redstone platform. Even if a demigod penetrates into these cracks and enters the void sea, it is difficult to come back. Even a demigod like them. No, once you get stuck, there is only one way to forcibly return. Therefore, no one can find the target without the exact coordinates, and dare not try it casually. This is the main reason why Yumming Trading Company wants the demigod of vampires. Location. The vampire demigods have already entered the tomb of the gods in advance. Judging from the actions of Yumming Trading Company, Limited, the demigods' vampires should be trapped in the tomb of the gods, otherwise they would not dare to go. It only took half a day for them to cross thousands of kilometers and enter the redstone platform. It is quite easy to recognize, as long as you see that the endless mountains and ground in front of you are all crimson, and the shocking dark cracks are distributed in the earth and sky like wounds, and the dark void energy spews into columns, you will know where you are. These dark cracks are the wounds of the plane. An unimaginable fierce battle in ancient times shattered a super large plane, and the remaining fragments still retain the traces of these wounds. Void energy is sprayed into the plane along the wound, and the hundreds of thousands of square kilometers of land have been turned into barren land. Redstone Mesa, Yingzui Gorge. There is a mark on the map, located in the middle and lower part of the Redstone Mesa, is an inconspicuous Grand Canyon. The reason for this name is because a divine storm eagle lived here many years ago, and now that storm eagle has long since fallen to the hunting of vampire demigods. In fact, apart from vampire demigods and human demigods, there are no other divine creatures on this plane. All of them are allowed to kill and plunder deity to strengthen themselves. Only in this way can they be conferred gods. This plane fragment can only carry the birth of a true god, so the human demigod and the vampire demigod have been fighting for so many years, and they want to kill each other to seize the priesthood and divinity. When they were sitting on the magic flying carpet overlooking the barren Redstone Mesa, there was a huge camp on a high ground between the two peaks of a huge canyon somewhere in the Redstone Mesa. It could be seen that this camp had been built for a long time. There are complete stone city walls and permanent buildings, especially a small castle in the center of the camp. I don't know what small noble's territory. Inside the castle, in the hall on the second floor, a long red solid wood table is placed in the center of the hall, with a candlelight chandelier overhead. Zhang Feng sat in the main seat and said to the 5 men and women at the long conference table, "The person who sent it has already received Yu Shu, and the divinity will be delivered soon. At that time, the position of the vampire demigod will be determined based on this position." The man closest to him on the right touched the strange hair on the top of his head and said, "The company just let us in. Where's the team leader?" Zhang Feng replied, "The team leader has already discovered the location of the sanctuary of the demigods in the human kingdom, and is making the final determination. If found, the team leader will call the company to gather all the people in this plane and kill the humans before the students in the summer camp find out." Demigod. That means we can only rely on the 5 of us here. Zhang Feng nodded. "Yes, just the 5 of you, but isn't this your chance?" He blinked and smiled. Although the company stipulates that the harvest will be redistributed by invitation, as the first group of explorers, as long as they find the tomb of God and explore it, will there be no additional benefits. After he finished speaking, he raised his eyebrows at the man, who smiled knowingly. The other 4 of course understood what this meant, and all showed expressions of interest. At this time, a man with hair on the top of his head like a blue burning flame said, "I heard that there are many divine guards in the tomb of the gods. If there are enough numbers, it will be developed." Shish. The first man put his finger to his lips and hissed, "Zifeng, don't say anything nonsense." The man smiled, an expression I understand. Chapter 158. The young man is not authentic. P.S. I'm sorry that the alarm clock set at 4 o'clock didn't ring. I got up late. Just as they were teasing and chatting with a relaxed look, the door was suddenly knocked hurriedly, and several people in the hall immediately fell silent, looking at Zhang Feng at the same time. The middle-aged man raised his head suspiciously and asked casually, "What's up?" Someone outside the door replied loudly in a hurried voice. Just now, the sentry found that someone had entered the Yingzui Gorge on a flying carpet. Everyone's expressions changed suddenly, and the middle-aged man quickly opened the door and asked his men outside the door. Did the sentry see who was entering? The flying carpet is too big to see who is sitting on it, but the magic flying carpet is very luxurious, and the pattern on it is not like this world. I guess it is probably from the main world. Super Freshman Summer Camp. The name quickly appeared in Zhang Feng's mind, and then he immediately thought of something. He stretched out his hand and tapped the wrist wheel a few times to pop up a light curtain, and said in a deep voice, "Where have you been?" Yu Shu's voice sounded, "I just entered the red stone platform, and there is still more than half an hour to reach the camp. Hurry up, I need you to be back in 15 minutes. Is something wrong? Don't ask, just hurry up." After closing the communication, he raised his head and said to the 5 company elites in the room, "If you guessed correctly, the 3 Super Freshman Summer Camp players who bought the divinity in Alfonso before came here. They discovered the secrets hidden in the divinity before they sold the blood divinity." The 5 looked at each other in dismay, and after a long while the captain Li Cheng asked in a deep voice, "How to do?" Zhang Feng raised his head and glanced at him, his brows furrowed. He reached out and pinched the center of his eyebrows, and didn't speak for a long time. The others didn't bother him, just looked at him. Although the 5 of them are all God's domain players, Zhang Feng is not, but the other party is the executive director of the company in this plane, and he is also the leader of this operation. For things like this, the director must make up his mind. The news was completely unexpected and gave him a headache. As far as they know, the goal of these Super Freshman Summer Camp players is to deal with the 2 kingdoms of this plane and the demigods behind the kingdoms, so the company made a plan to give up all business in this plane after getting the news, and prepared to make money at the last time. In one stroke, whether it was beheading 2 demigods or looting the tombs of gods, the company had planned it early on. Among them, the company that kills human demigods is just an attempt. After all, it is the mission goal of the summer camp players. The company did not have this goal. However, according to Zhang Feng's inside information from the company, it seems that the company has received more than one wave of secret instructions from unknown people to let the company try to kill humans or vampires first. As a senior executive who has been in Outland for hundreds of years, Zhang Feng knows that this involves the undercurrent of the summer camp. He can be sure who the so-called unknown person is, but he dare not say. Huasha District has been fighting with the Ivy League for hundreds of thousands of years, and joint exchange competitions like this are often held. From the hints from both parties, the company naturally followed the advice from the military in Huasha District for its own interests. After all, it was going to mix here, so the main force of the company was transferred to encircle and suppress human demigods. What a headache! Zhang Feng pinched his eyebrows, raised his head and said to Li Cheng, "Is it possible to cooperate with them to explore the tomb of the gods?" There is no way, if there are many ways in normal times, but at the time of the summer camp, a bunch of bigwigs have their eyes on this plane, and no excessive means can be used. He can be sure that if he does something excessive, he will be killed by the boss in minutes. Li Cheng and several of his subordinates looked at each other, all of them spread their hands and said they couldn't control it. As the captain, Li Cheng had no choice but to say, "It's okay to explore the tomb of the gods together, but the question is, will people be willing? This can be discussed." Zhang Feng stood up and patted the table and said, "Then let's go now and follow them." Deep in the Yingzui Gorge, the magic flying carpet flying in the air turned left and right around, bypassing 5 or 6 dark void energy columns standing in the air, all of which were space cracks. Here, he could clearly feel the violent energy of the chaotic void on the other side of the crack, wave after wave like tides. If he drilled in from here, he would fall directly into the void. Going around the gap in the void where the 5 or 6 paths are connected together, the line of sight in front of me suddenly opens up. At the end of the canyon, a straight lonely peak stands in the center of a huge valley. Void energy column. The three of them stood up from the magic flying carpet at the same time. This is the end of the Eagle's Mouth Gorge, and this straight solitary peak is the place where the once divine creature, the Storm Eagle, was occupied, and the coordinates of the Tomb of the Gods are here. Behind a space crack in the valley. There are probably hundreds of space cracks of different sizes in this valley. The small ones are only as big as a fist, and the larger ones are 7 or 8 meters in diameter. Not strong enough to test. Only legendary level adventurers or god level players who have the ability to test. If it is a demigod level god level player, it is better to test. It's a pity that Yumming Trading Company Limited has only one demigod team leader in this plane, which is not here, plus they haven't gotten the news of this god's tomb for a long time, so they don't have time to try it slowly. These space cracks are basically the same in length, and there is nothing special about them, and the coordinates they obtained from the blood god incarnation of the divine nature did not specify which crack it was. The principle is that the divinity from the blood god has the same power and breath as the vampire demigod. At this time, the vampire demigod has entered the tomb of the gods, so you can find the residual aura when the vampire demigod entered the correct space crack through the breath trapped by the divine nature, and you can find it with a little comparison. Of course, this also takes some effort, so many spatial cracks have to be compared one by one. Fortunately, the three of them share the divine aura and power, and the amount of work for the three of them to find together is much smaller. Get ready to do it, it's a bit of a project. Lin Xiao took out the toy wings given by Shen Yuexin again to activate the constant advanced flying technique and flew out from the magic flying carpet, flying towards the edge of the Eagle's Mouth Canyon. Lin Shu made a metal disc like a flying spy and flew out. Shen Yuexin still stood on the magic flying carpet, but reduced the flying carpet to only 2 or 3 meters square. He just found a space crack, and as soon as he approached him, he felt a strong attraction coming from it. If ordinary people approached, they would be sucked into it and twisted into powder in minutes. I circled around this long-shaped space crack, carefully sensed the comparison of the traces left on the edge of the crack, and quickly determined that this was not the case, and flew to the next crack without reluctance. The second crack was much larger, 3 meters long and nearly 2 meters wide, with thick jet black smoke billowing. As soon as he flew to the edge of the crack, Lin Xiao suddenly felt a move in his heart. He felt that there were several different residual information remaining in this space crack. He immediately regained his energy, and carefully sensed the residual information and the breath of the demigod from the vampire, and immediately noticed it. To one of the residual breath can be against it. I rub it, luck is so good. He immediately waved to Lin Shu and Shen Yuexin excitedly. I found it. Both of them flew over with an unexpected look on their faces, and looked at them separately. Lin Shu said with great joy. It's so lucky to have found it so quickly. But Shen Yuexin thoughtfully pinched her smooth chin, interrupted their joy, and said. It's a good thing to find it so quickly, but in order to avoid accidents, I think I need to look at other spatial cracks. Are you saying that this may be the suspicion of a vampire demigod? Lin Xiao also pinched his chin, which was indeed a little abnormal. The three calmed down and thought for a while, and decided to continue to check other space cracks. And this investigation really found the problem. In less than 4 minutes, Lin Shu found a space crack that also left traces of the power of the vampire demigod, and then Shen Yuexin also found one, and soon Lin Xiao found another one. Needless to say, it is 100% sure that the vampire demigods are suspicious before entering the real tomb of the gods. If they are not careful, they will be trapped. Why bah, continue to match. The three were helpless and had to check one by one. When Zhang Feng and the others came over after waiting for more than half an hour, what they saw was the pictures of the three of them working hard to check one by one. Frowning, he turned out from behind a space crack, and when Lin Xiao looked up, he saw more than a dozen members from Yumming Trading Company, Limited. Taniguchi didn't hide their whereabouts. After staring at the small eyes for a long time, he greeted a little embarrassedly. Zhang Feng waved his hand with a dark face, and said in a displeased tone. Several little brothers are inauthentic, and they still have a hand after the transaction. Lin Xiao laughed dryly and shrugged. This can't be blamed on us, we don't know your purpose, you buy it at 3 times the premium, we will definitely take a look out of curiosity. Zhang Feng was speechless, there was no way to refute this, and they would do the same. With the beginning, it's easy to say later. Zhang Feng, an old fried dough stick, won't bother with these at all, and said simply. Now that we know everything, let's not hide it. Let's just say it. I believe you will not give up this good opportunity, and neither will we. Why don't we work together to explore this tomb of God? This proposal, Lin Xiao whispered to Lin Shu and Shen Yuexin. I think this proposal is good. After all, there is a vampire demigod in the tomb of the gods. The three of us may not be able to fight. If you add their team, it will be different. Lin Shu nodded. I think so too, but be careful of them. I heard that these people who have been in Outland all the year round are unbelievable, and they can do anything for the benefit. Shen Yuexin frowned slightly, but did not speak. If that's the case, then it's troublesome. Secretly estimating the strength of both sides, Lin Xiao found that their side was not dominant. P.S. I wiped. The alarm clock didn't ring at night.